Chapter 285, Angry God Pill Coward. 5. Suli's beautiful eyes were blank as she murmured. She didn't expect that Nangong Chen's luck would be so good that he actually got the buy spot. What a lucky guy. Seeing the other party's proud look, Suli imitated the other party's words and nodded. After spending so much time with Nangong Chen, she gradually understood the strange words that came out of his mouth from time to time. The smile on Nangong Chen's lips froze, and there were some dark lines on his forehead. Who made the three no's in my house look like this? At this moment, the star envoy on the stage slowly spoke. I believe you have already seen the opponent you have drawn. I hope you will be prepared for the battle. Of course, due to the difference in the number of participants in this round, there will be a bye. Then, the star envoy paused and glanced downwards. After he finished speaking, countless people looked up, their ears perked up with curiosity, wanting to hear who was so lucky to have drawn a bye. You know, you don't have to do anything, and you've already made it into the top 10. Who do you think it is? I don't know. Judging from the expressions of these people, there doesn't seem to be much change. Yes, for some geniuses, whether or not they draw a bye doesn't seem to matter. Everyone was talking in low voices, causing a commotion. Seeing that it was almost done, the star envoy finally spoke, coughing lightly. This person is Nangong Chen from Tianyuan Domain. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's faces were filled with shock, and they all looked towards the young man in the snow-white clothes in the Tianyuan realm. Nangong Chen had a calm expression. Even though he saw so many gazes coming at him, there was not a single ripple in his heart. What? Are you surprised to see it's me? Fuck, it's actually this pervert. No, it's actually Brother Nangong. Lutiju couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise, but then realized that something was wrong and quickly changed his words. Sure enough, you are worthy of being Brother Nangong. Your luck is like a dragon. Li Qixin also showed a look of joy and sighed. Wang Tung and others were also happy for each other from the bottom of their hearts. This means that their Tianyuan domain has already secured a player in the top 10. Seeing this, Luan Xin in the corner looked gloomy and said to himself, "You're lucky you didn't meet me. Anyway, it doesn't matter if you die sooner or later." After saying that, he closed his eyes and continued to recover from his injuries. Although it was only a brief flash of murderous intent, Nangong Chen still caught it keenly. He glanced at Wan Xin, his eyes cold. What a wild dog that bites people indiscriminately. It's almost dead but still refuses to be quiet. If he encounters Wan Xin, he will kill him without mercy. The gods are also a little surprised when they heard that the person who was given a bye was Nangong Chen. It's actually the human kid? Damn, he's so lucky. Xian Hong and the others spoke, their tone a little sour. If they could draw a bye, they could be in the top 10 for free. I actually hope he get a bye, otherwise this guy might fall to someone else before he even meets me, which would be boring. Xian Jie's tone was calm, neither happy nor sad. His face was filled with unparalleled confidence as he continued. Of course, if he meets me, he will have no choice. I will destroy his Tao heart and make him regret coming into this world. It's the Son of God who has the foresight. Seeing this, Xian Hong also flattered him with a gleam in his eyes. Did you pick the woman next to him? At this moment, Xuanjie seemed to have thought of something, looked at him, and asked. That's right, Son of God. If the strength of that human woman is as I suspected, I will be 70% sure of defeating her. After hearing this, Xian Hong said with confidence that he was not as useless as Xian Jinfei. His body is the rare 9-spirit king body among the gods, and he carries the power of 9 gods. Although he has only opened 3 divine powers now, the strength he has displayed is already the best among his peers and can easily crush ordinary geniuses. 70% sure. Xian Jie's eyes flickered after hearing this, as if he was thinking about something. Then he said coldly, I'm giving you the Wrathful God Pill as a trump card. How sure are you? After hearing this, Xian Hong's face showed excitement. The Wrathful God Pill was the only magical pill that could forcibly change one's fate during a battle. For their race of gods, it can temporarily stimulate their own potential and break through to a certain realm. For example, if he swallowed it, he would instantly reach the peak of divine king cultivation. This was enough to change the situation and reverse the fate of the world. 100% sure. If I have this Wrathful God Pill, Son of God, I am 100% sure that I can defeat that human woman. Xian Hong said excitedly. Well, don't let me down. Seeing this, Xuanjin nodded lightly. After learning that Nangong Chen had drawn a bye, Hu Yaoyao was also stunned and sighed. That guy is so lucky. Then, she looked at her token and was speechless. How come she drew the Tianyuan domain again? It would be great if I could draw the God Clan, the Sea Region, or that damn bald donkey. It is almost common knowledge that the Buddhist realm and the demon realm are not in harmony. Over time, even their geniuses have become dissatisfied with each other. The idea of the Buddhist realm is to exorcise demons and save ghosts. And coincidentally, The demon realm is full of demons. Coupled with the influence of those ideas since childhood, Gu Yaoyao became increasingly dissatisfied with Fozi. He has been ranked as the second most annoying person after Xuanjia. Not far away, the Buddhist disciple sneered, looking at the token in his hand, his eyes becoming colder, and muttered to himself, "I finally caught you, you people from Xintian territory. I want to see where you can run this time." He decided to use the same trick he had used before to trick this genius, namely Muxio. As for Hai Wuhan from the sea area, he showed a hint of disdain after learning that his opponent was the dark-skinned, flat-headed boy from the Xintian area. He had seen the other party fight yesterday, and the runes on his hand were a bit strange, but the strength was very average for him, and he had not yet reached the realm of God King. "Chali, right? Look how I kill you," he said in a cold voice, his eyes becoming even colder. At this time, in the outside world, after learning the results of the draw, the square was in an uproar. It seems like Saint Chu is unlucky against Gu Yaoyao. She didn't expect to be the first to face a seeded player. This battle is definitely a foregone conclusion. Don't you think that Chao Li from Qilin sect actually ran in a Hai Wuhan from the previous area? Hiss. The other party is in the late stage of Divine King, so there should be no suspense. Li Muxio, the second son of the Li family, was also unlucky. He drew the Buddha's disciple, and the opponent was also a seeded player. Only Overlord and Moon God seem to have good draws. Their opponents are all geniuses in the Divine King realm of the Demon realm. These two should be able to advance with certainty. It's incredibly good lottery. I'm afraid only those with double pupils could pull off. They actually drew a bye. Ha ha, that's incredible luck. I just wonder who the Ice Phoenix Goddess drew. The powerful ones in the void were worried. Many of their disciples might be eliminated in this round. And Fun Dao, who was hiding in the clouds, gritted his teeth and looked extremely gloomy when he saw that Nangong Chen was not chosen. This boy has incredible luck and can always turn danger into fortune. If we were to take action, we would absolutely ensure that there would be no mistakes, or there would be endless trouble. He calmed down and secretly considered improving his next plan. A strong man who can reach this level is naturally not stupid. He is extremely cunning, and his hands are stained with the blood of countless geniuses. At the same time, beside the lake in the back mountain of the Li family, I got a bye, but I'm lucky to be qualified to enter the Heritage Temple. After seeing the result, Bai Wudao's eyes flickered. He spoke softly, then dropped the white piece in his hand and sighed. He's only in the top 10, but his luck won't be so good. It will be a tough battle. I don't know how far he can go. It's unprecedented for a peak-level powerful being to defeat a late-stage God King. That kid shouldn't be able to defeat a peak-level God King. The gap between the two is enormous. Li Muxio thought for a moment, shook his head, made a black move, and then continued. My 7 gods were lucky too, having drawn that demon race. They're almost guaranteed to be in the top 10. However, Muxio's luck was a little off. What a pity. Even so, the fact that the two of them could reach this point was completely beyond his expectations, and he could be said to be very satisfied. For them, not drawing the blood god cult quasi-saint is actually a good sign. Bai Wudao spoke with a far-reaching gaze. That's right. Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Great. The Crown Prince actually got a bye. As expected, the Crown Prince is incredibly lucky, comparable to the ancestral dragon. Yes, the Crown Princess drew Xianhong, so there shouldn't be any big problems. Doesn't that mean that 2 people from our Divine Dynasty will enter the top 10 of the 10 domains this time? That's a great honor, to be in the top 10 of the 10 domains. All the ministers in the court were overjoyed at the result of the draw the next day. Even Nangong Chen was very satisfied and nodded frequently, believing that there should be no surprises in advancing to the top 10. The battlefield of heaven and earth. On the ring, the first battle has quietly begun. It was Hai Wuhan versus Chao Li, and the result was as expected. Chao Li was hung up and beaten by Hai Wuhan. However, at the last moment, he pretended to surrender. Seeing that the other party was distracted, he took the opportunity to punch Hai Wuhan in the face, hurting him slightly. This was the only time he touched the other party in this battle. Of course, he still ended up being seriously injured, with blood all over his body and his face extremely pale. Lu Daju hurried forward to support him. Seeing that he was still alive, he breathed a sigh of relief. Didn't I tell you to surrender? Are you stupid? Chao Liqiang endured the pain and grinned. Damn it, he beat up my brother. How could he be so safe and sound? After hearing this, Lu Daju was silent for a while, and then he wanted the other party to take the heavenly grade elixir he had obtained. Chao Li shook his head and refused. He had his own, so why should he take his? Afterwards, he felt a little weak and coughed up a lot of blood. He looked at Wang Tung and others with concern. Hai Wuhan, who was standing in the distance, had some bruises on his right cheek. After seeing Chao Li's miserable state, He sneered and said sarcastically, "You are such a loser. You from Xintian territory have to resort to such low-class methods to even touch me. If you count on me a few times once you get on stage, maybe I'll let you touch me." After seeing this, Li Qixin's face turned cold, and he gritted his teeth as he looked at the arrogant Hai Wuhan. "Why are you so arrogant? If you run into me, I will beat you so hard that even your mother won't recognize you." After hearing this, Hai Wuhan slapped his left cheek in a provocative manner, signaling him to come over and fight. Then he said arrogantly, "He's just a mid-stage divine king." "I'm so scared." Li Qixin was stunned. Yes, his cultivation level was lower than his. Whether he could defeat him was another matter. Hai Wuhan's attitude also made Jiang Che and the others look unhappy, and they stared at him intently. Nangong Chen, who was far away, frowned when he saw this. Chao Li was a friend he considered respectable. After all, he was a simple man and was very loyal and righteous. Not only was Chao Li severely injured by Hai Wuhan, but now he was mocking their Xintian domain. If they didn't stand up, it would be too much. "I wonder if I, a peak-level powerful being, can teach you a water ghost." Nangong Chen spoke softly. His voice was not loud, but it could be heard throughout the battlefield of heaven and earth. Nangong Chen's words also made many people who were secretly watching smile. They knew something big was coming. Hai Wuhan's smile was a little stiff, and the previous joy disappeared in an instant. He had seen Nangong Chen fight, and he was very strong. He was only slightly stronger than by long. If the opponent can win so easily, it means that he can also be defeated easily. A look of fear appeared in his eyes. He said nothing more and turned away. "Coward." Seeing this, Su Li also added a sentence. His voice was not loud, but it was extremely lethal. When Hai Wuhan heard this, his body trembled a little and he clenched his fists secretly. After seeing this scene, Chao Li and others also smiled. It must be Brother Nangong and his two friends. Li Qixin also cast a complicated look. After a long while, he sighed to himself. After all, he was not working hard enough. If he were strong enough, he could be like the other party, and no one would dare to provoke him. At this moment, after reading the story, Fox Yao Yao from the Demon Realm also looked towards Nangong Chen and couldn't help but sigh. That gentleman doesn't seem as cold and heartless as he looks. It would be nice if he could just smile. Then, she glanced at Hai Wuhan with a bad look on her face. If she met him, she would beat him to death because he had made that adult unhappy. Hai Wuhan didn't know that this small action of his had caused dissatisfaction among both parties. "If I knew, I would probably regret it so much." Soon, the next battle came, in which Xian Jie fought against a genius from the Demon Realm. The result was obvious. The genius from the Demon Realm surrendered as soon as he went up, and Xian Jie won effortlessly. As for the latter battle, it was Chu Yin versus Hu Yao Yao. Hu Yao Yao was kind to the human race, so she suppressed herself to a certain level to fight with Chu Yin. This also made Chu Yin very grateful to her, and soon, the two of them put on an extremely exciting battle. The two women are both the most beautiful among the beauties, with stunning looks. The fight between the beauties is very pleasing to the eyes, which is a feast for the eyes for many people. Of course, Hu Yao Yao won in the end. After the performance, the audience burst into thunderous applause. After several battles, it was time for the focus battle of the day between the third genius of the God Clan and the girl who had made a big splash before, Su Li. This battle was a fight between dragons and tigers, which made many people's eyes excited, wanting to see what the limit of the peak of the powerful realm was. You know, Su Li had previously killed a mid-stage God King with one sword, which left a deep impression on them. Now, facing the third genius of the God Clan, Xian Hong, with a 9-Spirit King body, the opponent was several levels stronger than Xian Jinfei. When these two collide, I wonder what kind of sparks will be created. Chapter 286, Xian Hong versus Su Li. At this moment, in the outside world, the third most talented person in the God Clan, is actually facing off against our goddess Su. Some people were shocked when they saw this scene. This should be considered the most exciting battle of this round. One is at the peak of the Great Power Realm, and the other is at the late stage of the Divine King Realm. Genius versus genius. This battle is destined to be extraordinary. There were also strong men who nodded slightly and sighed. Yeah, we don't know who will win. According to Overlord, this person seems to have the 9-Spirit King body. Even Overlord and his men have to avoid him when they see him. Besides, the gods possess extraordinary magical powers. Look at the light on Xian Jinfei's body when he was fighting. It seems to allow them to enter another unique state, making them extremely powerful. Trust Goddess Su. You know, before, Goddess Su killed the God King with one sword. But this battle is a difficult one for her. Everyone was worried. Although Su Li's previous performance was very impressive, they had to know that the other party's genius this time was the one who could truly rank among the gods. Compared with this Xian Hong, The previous Xian Jinfei is nothing but a dwarf. It is no exaggeration to say that the difference between the two is as great as that between heaven and earth. At this moment, the powerful people from all walks of life in the void were also very pessimistic about this battle. It's not that they don't think highly of Su Li, but the experiences recorded in the chart of all worlds are far more terrifying than what everyone knows. What's this? When he first entered the Divine King realm, he could fight a late Divine King beast on equal terms. In his youth, the talent he displayed was only slightly weaker than that of the twin monsters. As for the twin monsters, they are naturally Xian Jie and Xian Xiangling. Return to the battlefield of heaven and earth. At this moment on the stage, Su Li was wearing an ice blue fairy dress, with a stunning face and skin as white as fresh snow. She exuded an extreme coldness and a cold temperament, like a fairy in the snowy sky. She placed one hand on Zhang Qiue's waist, her beautiful eyes calm as she looked at the other person quietly. This posture was exactly the same as when she fought Xian Jinfei before, as if what she saw before her eyes was no different. Opposite him, Xian Hong was wearing a platinum robe, with a handsome face and a look of arrogance. The indifferent light in his eyes destined him to be the best among the gods. I won't show any mercy to women. If you're scared, surrender as soon as possible. He was very confident and spoke with a hint of arrogance in his tone. If he could keep the Wrath God pill for the next round, it would undoubtedly be worth it for him. Of course, the prerequisite is to defeat the opponent. If the opponent cannot even cross the region, how can we talk about what happens next? The one I killed last time said the same thing to you. Su Li said coldly. The other party's arrogant attitude made her very uncomfortable. Me? Ha ha. He's just a proud figure among the gods. Do you really think that if you can defeat him, you can defeat us? Xian Hong laughed heartily, not expecting the other party to be so naive. Then his face turned cold, his eyes ruthless, and he continued, Since you are so stubborn, I can only send you to death. As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful aura burst out from his body. This aura was even stronger than that of an ordinary late-stage god king. Many people in the audience changed their expressions slightly, shook their heads, and became more pessimistic about Su Li. At the same time, Li Qixin and others also looked at the arena with worry. They didn't know whether Su Li could defeat such a powerful opponent. Xian Jie, who was not far away, was standing with his arms folded across his chest, looking down at the ring from above, with a look of confidence on his face, as if he was sure to win this battle. With the wrathful god pill, he didn't believe that he couldn't eliminate her. As the star envoy finished speaking, the battle began in earnest. God, please bless your people to win the battle. I will serve you faithfully. Xian Hong whispered, his expression extremely sincere. The next moment, 3 divine patterns bloomed behind his body, bursting out with blazing divine light. At the same time, Xian Hong also underwent a huge change. The emotions in his eyes dissipated and were replaced by endless divinity. He stood in the void, his golden robe fluttering like a real god. The aura emitted was too shocking. After the geniuses present felt it, they all stepped back, their pupils shrank slightly, and they were extremely nervous. Could this be the true Protoss's genius? Someone said in a lost voice. They had heard long ago that different geniuses of the God Clan would receive different combat blessings based on their qualification levels. The more monstrous the genius, the more powerful the blessing would be, and the greater the increase would be. This is equivalent to being one realm ahead of you at the beginning. If it were a genius from other domains, I'm afraid they would not be able to accept it. At the same time, people from the outside world were also shocked after seeing this, and were even more horrified by these geniuses of the gods. Goddess, can you defeat? A disciple from the sect said tremblingly. There is no way. The impact brought by the blessing of God, Xian Hong, is too terrifying. Have you thought about how you're going to die? Xian Hong said indifferently, as if he could sentence the other party to death at will. This was an extreme self-confidence. Su Li's pretty face was ice-cold, and there was no trace of fear from beginning to end, even though she was so insignificant compared to the other person at this moment. The next moment, she drew out Zhang Qiue, and her aura suddenly changed. The ice phoenix mark on her crystal jade forehead burst into dazzling light, and the entire arena and the entire starry sky seemed to suddenly become cold. Xian Hong's face changed slightly. He could feel that the other party's physique was extremely extraordinary. If it dragged on, something unpredictable might happen. He took a deep breath, and a small golden sword instantly appeared in his hand. With a bang, he burst out like a gust of wind, his speed reaching the extreme. Everyone only felt that the golden light in front of them was blurry, so fast that it was almost impossible to capture it with the naked eye. Fuck. Some people couldn't help but swear. It was really too fast, and it didn't seem like something a god king could say. Of course, if they saw Nangong Chen's secret character, they would probably change their words. His first divine power, the swift wind. At this moment, Li Qixin saw this and explained with shock in his eyes. After hearing this, Wang Teng and the others nodded and swallowed secretly. Is this the magical power of the gods? It's truly amazing. The next moment, the golden sword emitted a cold light, and Xianhong's figure had appeared in front of her, aiming at her vitals, and was about to stab her. Su Li suddenly opened her eyes, and those ice-blue eyes now held a hint of phoenix might, which transformed into tangible coldness and burst out with extreme frost. The area around the arena turned into frozen soil in an instant, and the golden sword in front of Su Li was also frozen. The chill was spreading at an extremely fast speed from the tip of the sword to the hilt, and then to Xianhong. There was a flash of shock in Xianhong's eyes, and then he fled backwards in a hurry. The golden sword in his hand had already fallen from the air and smashed onto the ring with a very crisp sound. It was not until Xianhong escaped to another part of the ring and saw that the chill was gradually subsiding that he breathed a sigh of relief. He looked at Su Li with fear in his eyes. He could not imagine that the other party would have such a method to freeze the entire space. Even his divine power was greatly affected in this icy and snowy environment, and its speed became extremely slow. Seeing that Xianhong's killing move was easily resolved by Su Li, the people in the audience sighed and could hardly believe it. The legendary realm. She is at the level of a powerful being. How is this possible? There's something wrong with her physique. It's definitely not an ordinary divine body. Its strength far exceeds that of an ordinary divine body. At this moment, Li Qixin and the others looked excited and very excited. He dodged this move and even sealed off the entire arena, preventing him from unleashing his divine power. Xianhong is completely defeated by Goddess Su. We have hope. On the ring, seeing that the other party dodged her attack, Su Li was neither happy nor sad. Her beautiful face was very calm. She stretched out her bare hands, and an extremely cold killing move condensed in the void. This killer move, even with just a wisp of aura, made everyone tremble in shock. Xianhong narrowed his eyes slightly, his face full of fear. He knew that the opponent's attack might be dangerous to him. Leaving the king's shield, Xianhong turned his hands into palms and pushed forward horizontally. The sky changed slightly, and an ancient shield emitting golden divine light appeared in front of him in an instant. This ancient shield seems to be made of ancient materials, and it actually has a hint of charm, with dragon and bird images intertwined. This was his second divine power, a blessing from the dragon bird god, King Li, an ant trying to shake a tree. When Su Li saw this scene, he spat out 4 words coldly. Boom! A dazzling cold light burst out from the void and transformed into an ice and snow phoenix. Its eyes were shining, and its power was earth-shaking, carrying an aura of pressure that surpassed all other beasts. Everyone could hardly imagine how terrifying the killing power would be if this attack landed. Even the God King didn't have such a method. The red dragon bird that was transformed from the Li Wang shield, after sensing this breath, actually curled up and kowtowed to the ice sky divine phoenix. This scene also stunned many people. Xianhong's eyes widened, his face pale. He could feel that the charm on King Li's shield was constantly fading. This meant that if he called on King Li in the future, the other party would not bless him. He looked at the ice phoenix falling and suddenly smelled the breath of death. Boom! The ice and snow phoenix smashed into the Li Wang shield, unleashing unprecedented power. The huge wave formed by the huge impact force was now sweeping around madly. Everyone couldn't open their eyes, their bodies couldn't help but shiver, and they felt like they were in a cold wind. However, they were still quite a distance away from the ring. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the hurricane in the center of the ring would be. After a few breaths, the cold light dissipated. Who's winning? Someone asked in a trembling voice. The battle between these two people was really shocking, especially the human woman. She was so terrifying that she didn't look like a human. A faint light appeared in Nangong Chen's eyes. At this moment, he was looking straight at the center of the ring with his eyes flashing, but soon he found something wrong. Oh, he's not dead? No, what did he eat? Through his double pupils, he could clearly see that the scarred Xianhong's heart was almost stopping after this blow, and his entire body was filled with frost. It could be said that he was on the verge of death. Even in such a situation, he was still able to swallow a pill and repair his injuries. He even raised his realm to the peak of the God King. He was only one step away from becoming a quasi-saint. There's something wrong with that pill, Nangong Chen thought to himself, and then glanced at the gods not far away. There, Xinjie still had confidence on his face. Even when he saw Xianhong falling into a disadvantage, his expression did not change at all, as if he had already won everything. Nangong Chen's eyes gradually turned cold. He was sure that the pill was related to this person. Then, he looked at Su Li on the stage, his eyes showing some worry, wondering if the other party could handle it. Unfortunately, the ring was sealed, blocking out everything from the outside world, so he couldn't remind anyone. The snow mist dissipated, and everyone could only see a corner of the empty arena. Su Li was still high above, as cold and indifferent as a goddess, looking down calmly. After seeing it, Li Qixin and others were the first to cheer excitedly. "We won. Goddess Su won." The other geniuses were a little surprised. They didn't expect that this battle would end so easily. Just when everyone was secretly marveling at the birth of another monster, a golden cold light emerged from the snow fog below the arena and rushed towards the graceful figure in the void. This person is none other than Xianhong. At this moment, although Xianhong's body was soaked in frost and he was in a miserable state, an aura even more powerful than before burst out from his body. After seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. Their pupils suddenly shrank, as if they had seen a ghost. Su Li frowned. She had never expected that the other party could suddenly remain intact under the profound meaning of the magic technique, and even be reborn into nirvana. Could it be that the other party had been hiding their strength from the beginning? This was obviously impossible. When she fought with the other party, she could clearly feel that the other party's strength had not changed at all. Of course, she was not a hesitant person. Her beautiful eyes immediately turned cold, and her jade hands turned into palms, bursting out with coldness, blocking the front. This is the Frost Fairy Hand, a fairy skill she recently acquired. She is incredibly talented and has such power that she has already reached the level of minor success. However, since she didn't have much time left, she could only release a small prototype. The power of God, burning blood. Xianhong muttered with a cold expression. Then he clenched his fist, and a flash of fire burst out from his hand. The burning blood, combined with the fire tribute boxing technique, was the means he had thought of to restrain the opponent to the greatest extent. Boom! On the ring, the blazing fist light collided with the giant frosty palm, erupting in terrifying waves that were even more terrifying than before. If there were no rules to seal it, it would be hard to imagine how much damage it would cause. After a few breaths, the flames devoured the frost. Su Li was pushed back a few steps and blocked it with difficulty. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth, and her delicate face looked a little pale at this moment. The opponent's divine power, plus the full force of a peak God King attack. Even if other powerful God Kings were here, they would probably be killed on the spot. Su Li only took a few steps back, but this was enough to show how powerful the true Phoenix technique she practiced was. Chapter 287: Xianhong's Defeat, Li Muxio's Plan. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned, their eyes filled with shock. They couldn't imagine why Xianhong, who was at a disadvantage before, suddenly became so powerful that he could even hurt the opponent. What did Xianhong do? Is this also a talent among the God Clan? How is this possible? How can one suddenly become a completely different person? Stop discussing this for now. This human woman is about to lose. Although everyone was puzzled, they continued to look at the ring. The only thing that was certain was that this was definitely the most exciting battle they had seen in these days. At this moment, Li Qixin and the others were all shocked and full of disbelief. If Xianhong is at the peak of the Divine King, why didn't he show it earlier? He was able to hide his true colors so well. If he dies, I wonder if the Ice Phoenix Goddess can withstand him next. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. And after seeing Su Li being injured, Nangong Chen's face, which looked like a banished immortal, was very calm at this moment. His double pupils were dim, and he just glanced at Xianjie below. Nangong Chen, who is in the state of neither joy nor sorrow, is the most terrifying. A dragon has a reverse scale, and coincidentally, the person next to him is his reverse scale. Far away, this sudden and biting chill made Xuanjie shiver, as if he was being stared at by an evil spirit from the abyss. His expression changed slightly, and he even smelled a hint of death in a trance. How is this possible? Who here can kill me? I am invincible. Xuanjie's face was a little pale. After a long time, he slowly came back to his senses. He looked around but still couldn't find the owner of that gaze. He gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and his eyes were a little gloomy. It's better not to let me know who it is. Back to the ring. After seeing Su Li injured, Xianhong's eyes flashed with brilliance, and his body burst into red light, as if his blood was boiling and igniting billowing flames. Immediately afterwards, Xianhong showed a ruthless look on his face and attacked Su Li one after another. Several flames burst out from his hands. He wants to take her life while she is sick. On the other side, Su Li obviously expected the other party to take action. She took a deep breath, pinched the magic formula with her bare hands, and activated the true Phoenix technique. At this moment, the injuries in her body were recovering steadily, and her fair face gradually regained color. The next moment, She held the snow-cutting sword in her hand, and the might of a phoenix burst out from her beautiful eyes like a 9-day ice phoenix. The aura on her body was even more terrifying than before, and she slashed towards the flames. Soon, the ice-blue sword light and the blazing flames intertwined in the void. The speed was so fast that it could not be seen by the naked eye, and only 2 afterimages could be seen. The power unleashed in the fight between the two was earth-shattering, and the destructive power was totally unlike a fight between geniuses. After a while, people gradually discovered that the ice-blue figure seemed to be suppressing the other side, and even became more courageous as the battle went on. This kind of battle shocked everyone, and it took them a long time to recover. They couldn't understand why the human woman became stronger after being injured. Could this also be her physique? Someone was puzzled and said in disbelief. After confirming it was correct, some sharp-eyed people burst into exclamations. No, no, this is one of the legendary 10 evil treasures, the true Phoenix treasure. Combined with the opponent's divine body, it can produce such an effect. True Phoenix magic. When these words were spoken, everyone looked horrified. Everyone knows that the true Phoenix technique is a legendary technique passed down from generation to generation by one of the 10 evils of ancient times. Among them, the true Phoenix immortality technique, Phoenix Nirvana, and other freehand techniques are even more famous in the 9 heavens and 10 regions. As long as it is born, it will attract countless people to fight for it. Even those old monsters in the 3,000 Dao states and the immortal Dao sect will have people trying to snatch it away. And now, a girl from Xinjiang territory actually has the complete inheritance of the true Phoenix treasure technique. At this moment, even Xian Jie showed a little fear in his eyes after seeing the extraordinary power of the true Phoenix technique. Not only him, but also Fozi, Hu Yao Yao, and Xian Xiangling all stared intently at the girl on the stage. There is no doubt that in their hearts, the strength displayed by the other party is enough for them to take him seriously, and he is no longer an ordinary genius. In fact, in their opinion, the potential and strength displayed by Su Li are even stronger than Nangong Chen. On the ring, as a ray of ice exploded, Xianhong took several steps back, spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned extremely pale. His face was full of resentment. He didn't know why the girl in front of him was so abnormal. She became more and more courageous as the battle went on. Even after being injured, she could recover extremely quickly, like a perpetual motion machine. Even after several rounds of fighting, the opponent had grown to the point where he could suppress him. At this moment, Su Li saw this and did not give up. He stretched out his hands, and the power of ice and frost condensed in the sky, sweeping across the entire sky. Suddenly, a phoenix claw shadow fell, snowflakes flew, and the power was so terrifying that it seemed to be able to tear the void apart. This is the true Phoenix treasure's freehand technique, the Flying Phoenix Claw. With the blessing of her divine body, it has evolved into the Ice Phoenix Claw. After seeing this scene, Xianhong's eyes were stunned and his body couldn't help but tremble. A breath of death slowly rose from his mind. He was exhausted and unable to resist. If this move was launched, he would definitely die. I surrender, Xianhong spoke in a trembling voice. Boom. As the words fell, Su Li withdrew her hand, put Zhang Shui back into the scabbard, and gave him a cold look, with frost in her beautiful eyes. The Star Envoy also announced at this moment, Xinjiang territory, Su Li wins. After he finished speaking, Xianhong's legs went limp and he collapsed to the ground. He took a deep breath, his eyes full of fear. He lost completely. Even after using the wrathful God pill, he still couldn't defeat the other party, a human woman that even the God King hadn't set foot on. He even nearly died at the hands of the other party. As the third most talented person in the God clan, he had never voluntarily admitted defeat in all these years. On the other side, Su Li had already left the ring, leaving behind only a cold and peerless figure. After a few breaths, the geniuses finally reacted and burst into thunderous applause. It's hard to believe that girl actually won. Oh my God, she's only at the peak of the great power, yet she can defeat the peak of the Divine King. That human boy from before wasn't this terrifying. We really misjudged her. We never imagined that the most powerful genius of the human race would be her. You know, she was quite inconspicuous in the first round of the trial. If it weren't for the killer god giving her so many points at the end, I'm afraid we wouldn't have known she existed. Now that you mention it, I understand why the god of killing gave her points. Everyone sighed and said that at this moment, they thought that Su Li's talent and strength were even more terrifying than what Nangong Chen had shown before, and they were more wary of him. After seeing Su Li win, Li Qixin and others were stunned for a while before they reacted. She could defeat a peak god king. Li Qixin murmured, feeling extremely shocked in his heart. Wang Teng and his companions had not expected that this battle which was full of twists and turns without any surprises, would end in this way. We greatly underestimated her, Shimeng said in a low voice, and at this moment her purple eyes were full of respect for Su Li. Even Chu Yan's expression became complicated when she saw the icy blue figure approaching. She never expected that the girl who hid behind Nangong Chen in the Nine Heavens secret realm that day would have grown to such a level that she would look up to her. These two people are really more perverted than the other. At this time, in the outside world, seeing this result, everyone's pupils shrank slightly. It was hard to imagine. Immediately afterwards, there was earth-shaking cheers like a tsunami. The Ice Phoenix Goddess did it. She defeated Xianhong. Oh my god, how did she do that? She hasn't even become a divine king yet. Yet she's already going against the enemy. After today, this battle will surely be recorded in the aftermath. Previously, they thought that Su Li might be slightly inferior in strength and talent to the person with double pupils. Now, it seems that the talent displayed by Su Li is even more terrifying. The powerful beings in the void also evaluated Su Li at this moment, saying that he was a monster that had never appeared in the era, and the Tianyuan divine dynasty far away in the east is also extremely excited at this moment. Return to the battlefield of heaven and earth. Xianjie had a gloomy look on his face. When he saw Xianhong coming, he became even more furious. He snorted coldly, completely losing his previous calm demeanor. Useless. My wrath god pills are wasted. Xianhong was stunned. After hearing this, his mouth felt a little bitter, but he did not refute. Yes, I am indeed a waste. Seeing the other party so negative, Xianjie became even angrier. He wished he could die on the ring and come back alive to be an eyesore to him. The other side, when Nangong Chen saw Su Li coming back, the corners of his handsome face raised slightly, and he said teasingly, "Amazing. Even the Peak God King was defeated by you. It seems that I will have to bow my head and look at your face in front of you from now on." After Su Li heard this, her ice-blue pupils seemed indifferent, but the corners of her mouth couldn't suppress a hint of joy, and she was very excited inside. She even slightly raised her white swan neck, reflecting the starlight on her beautiful face, with a proud look on her face, just like a kitten, expecting her owner to continue praising her. Nangong Chen raised his eyebrows when he saw this, then smiled and praised him a few more times. After all, if it weren't for his golden finger, Su Li would be considered the true son of destiny in this world. And now they are a married couple. If I don't pamper my wife, who will? Su Li was very pleased to hear these compliments from Nangong Chen's heart. Her dark eyebrows curved and she smiled, and the beautiful world seemed a little dim. Xianjie, who was far away, became even angrier when he saw the two of them joking like this. He wanted to make the boy feel bad, but he didn't expect that in the end, he would shoot himself in the foot and make himself feel even worse. Time passed quickly, and only the last battle remained on the ring. From Li Muxiu from Xiantian realm to the Buddha's disciple from Buddha realm. On the ring, Li Muxiu was dressed in brocade clothes, had a handsome face, and had an elegant temperament. He made people feel like they were bathed in the spring breeze and brought a lot of goodwill. The vertical wrinkle on his forehead also made many people secretly pay attention to him. After all, they had received news that in addition to the double pupils of the killing god in Xiantian realm, there was another man who also had the rare talent of the third eye. He does have some bearing, but his strength is a little lacking. Someone shook his head and commented on Li Muxiu. Others also echoed it. Obviously, there was almost no suspense in this battle. Li Muxiu is only at the peak of the great talent, while that Buddhist disciple has already reached the peak of the divine king. She can't be as evil and rebellious as the woman before. Obviously impossible. On the other side, a Buddhist disciple was wearing a monk's robe, twirling Buddhist beads in his hands, his eyes neither happy nor sad, but seemed to be filled with compassion. From a distance, he looks like just an ordinary monk, but once you get closer and feel the overwhelming pressure, you can clearly see how extraordinary this Buddhist is. Born with a Buddha body and a Buddha heart, these 8 characters are enough to reflect his qualifications. Yes, another vigorous blood energy, seemingly even more refined than the previous one. If I absorb it, my half-life demonic body will undergo further transformation. The Buddhist disciple looked at Li Muxiu and thought to himself. Everyone thought that he was born with a Buddha body, but in fact only he and his master knew that he had a twin Buddha and demon body, half Buddha and half demon, a physique that is hard to come by in millions of years. Those who possess this physique can not only practice 2 paths at the same time, but their strength far exceeds that of ordinary monsters. It can be said that when it grows up, it is almost close to being invincible. This is also the biggest secret of the Buddhist disciple. He originally planned not to expose it this time because other disciples of the Buddhist realm were also there. If they saw it, he would inevitably be in trouble after leaving. People in the Buddha realm cannot tolerate even a trace of evil. But now, the situation is different. All those annoying flies are dead. He can finally show his strength, and even use this as his trump card to give the others a huge surprise. Thinking of this, a mysterious smile appeared on the corner of the Buddha's mouth. After the Star Envoy announced the start of the battle, he, as before, sent a message to the other party asking them to cooperate with his performance. The Buddhist was a little surprised when he heard that the boy opposite was so sensible and agreed to his request without any hesitation. How stupid these humans are. The Buddhist shook his head, feeling inexplicably sad for the human race for having such a stupid genius. The Buddhist disciple burst out with his cultivation, first tried a few moves, and then formed a golden seal with his hands. In the void, an extremely terrifying killing technique condensed, and a brilliant Buddha light burst out. The third eye on Li Muxio's forehead suddenly blossomed, revealing its original appearance, an eye full of divinity. Although the sense of oppression is not as strong as that of Double Pupils, it still carries a terrifying pressure. Li Muxio looked solemn. He finally understood how the man had died at the hands of the other party. If he guessed correctly, the other party was going to kill him with this blow. As for the purpose of killing himself, it should be the bloodiness he saw that day. After the demon died, his other eye was filled with demonic energy, which devoured a wisp of the demon's blood, energy, and spirit. Why would a representative of the Buddha realm's genius, a being shrouded in Buddha's light, have demonic energy? He was puzzled. His divine eyes could not see through the other party's disguise due to the difference in strength. And in his heavenly eyes, there is a magical power called heavenly light appearance. If the distance is close, he can tear the opponent's disguise apart in an instant and show it to the world in full view. Li Muxio thought to himself that even if he saw the golden light coming down, he didn't have the slightest thought of resisting. He had to feign death, wait for the opponent to get close, and then use the skylight to reveal himself. Otherwise, with the opponent's vigilance, it would be difficult for him to get close to him. Chapter 288, Buddha's Son Exposed, Everyone Fears. At this moment, everyone present was puzzled when they saw that Li Muxio did not resist and let the golden Buddha seal fall. What is he doing? Why doesn't he resist? I think this person must have been frightened silly. What a shame. I didn't expect that besides the demon race, the human race also has such idiots. Everyone shook their heads with some sneer on their faces. On the other side in Xintian territory, Li Qixin and others had no time to deal with them, their hearts filled with tension and anxiety. Muxio, why doesn't he surrender? He's at the peak of the divine king. Xiongda widened his eyes and said in surprise. Li Qixin clenched his fists. After a long moment, he slowly spoke and explained, before he went on stage, I warned him, and he said he had his own plans. But, looking at the current situation, Muxio is completely unable to block this attack. Is he really going to do nothing and just watch this move fall? After hearing this, Lu Dezhu also paused for a while, and his breathing became a little unstable. In their opinion, they completely couldn't understand such a futile act, nor did they know what Li Muxio on the stage was planning, which was more important than their own lives. When Li Qixin heard this, he felt so uneasy that his nails almost dug into his flesh as he stared at the scene on the stage. He didn't believe that his brother would die in vain like this. He had been very smart since he was a child, and he must have his own plans. When Nangong Chen, who was not far away, saw this, his eyes flickered and it was unknown what he was thinking. Why haven't you taken action yet? Could it be that you have noticed something? He could see with his double pupils that the energy in the monk's body was not pure. It was composed of two energies intertwined. One was the Buddhist power, and as for the other, it was completely invisible because the other party had never displayed it. But what is certain is that this monk is definitely not as simple as he appears. If he doesn't surrender, he will die. At this moment, Su Li looked at the scene on the stage, shook his head, and spoke. At this moment, in the outside world, after seeing the Buddhist disciples attack, Li Muxio was still standing there. Everyone's faces were pale, as if they could already imagine the bloody scene that was to follow. It's over. Everything is over. It's too late to surrender now. Why would he do such a stupid thing? You guys think it's that Buddhist disciple on the other side who's behind this, right? He's smiling all the time, and you can tell he's not a good person. Not only them, but some powerful men also said that there was no hope after seeing it. With such a huge level of cultivation, the only way to surrender had already been blocked by him. What Li Muxio will face next will be death. What a pity. This boy is incredibly talented. Back then, he was no less talented than the Overlord. I sighed a little and felt that things and people have changed. Return to the battlefield of heaven and earth. On the stage, the golden seal came down. Boom! Endless power erupted from the center of the arena like a tsunami, creating waves of air. Soon, Li Muxio's figure was swallowed up by the billowing smoke and dust. After a long time, there was no movement at all. Umipa. The disciple's eyes flickered, and his tone seemed to be filled with regret. He then continued, "Why don't you surrender? I just want to advance, not kill innocent people." Having said that, his heart was already extremely excited at this moment, because he had obtained the best blood and energy, which was enough to nurture his demonic body. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but quicken his pace, searching for Li Muxio's body in the huge cloud of dust. However, after one breath or two breaths of time passed, there was still no sign of the other party, which made the Buddhist disciple frown. And the audience below the stage also realized something was wrong at this moment. "Why haven't you announced the victory yet? Didn't the Buddha win?" "Oh yeah, didn't we win? Why does that star envoy look so unimpressed? Did he make a mistake?" Just as everyone was expressing their doubts, a weak cough was heard from the ring. I saw the seriously injured Li Muxio appear on the ring at some point. He was covered in blood and limping, as if he was trying hard to do something. His original plan was to expose the weirdness of this Buddhist disciple so that when the time came, whether it was Li Qixin, Brother Nangong, or Goddess Su, they would be able to deal with it. After all, a peak god king still has a huge secret, which is extremely disadvantageous in battle. Therefore, he would clear away any obstacles they might encounter. When the Buddhist disciple saw Li Muxio appear, he was stunned, as if he had seen a ghost. Then he frowned. He had a premonition that the other party might do something extremely bad to him. Thinking of this, he didn't hesitate and turned his hand into a fist and punched towards Li Muxio. After seeing this, Li Muxio smiled, but because his face was stained with blood, his smile looked a little ferocious. Finally, the other party stopped pretending. At this moment, the third eye on Li Muxio's forehead finally opened, and a brilliant white light burst out from those godlike eyes. This ray of light is extremely pure, and as the light of heaven shines, it seems that all the evil spirits will reveal their true forms here. The next moment, the true appearance of the Buddha appeared before everyone. He is half human and half demon, with half of his body retaining its original appearance, while the other half has demon ears, blood-red eyes, and is filled with endless brutality. And the aura of the Buddha's disciple, at some point, was just one step away from stepping into the realm of quasi-saint. They could clearly see that the surging demonic intent within that demonic body seemed to be just about to form. Everyone was stunned. They had never imagined that the Buddha, who was compassionate to the world and the face of the Buddhist world, would actually be like this in private. Half Buddha, half demon, twin bodies, this terrifying demonic intent intertwined with the Buddha's light, erupting with a special power. For a moment, everyone present could not sit still. "Hiss! What the hell is this thing? Is it still a human? Ha ha! I didn't expect that the Buddha's disciple in the Buddha realm actually has twin bodies. Moreover, with such demonic intent, he definitely hasn't been secretly practicing demonic cultivation techniques. TSK, this is really interesting. If the Buddha realm knew about this, what would his expression be? He kept it a secret for so long. Surely those people wouldn't know about it." "I think so too. Could it be that in the first round, he deliberately left her to die, just to protect this trump card? I didn't expect her to be so cunning, so terrifying." Rumors were heard from the audience. As for the Buddhist disciple, after seeing that his disguise had been discovered, he was also stunned. He stood there in disbelief, and the fist light that had been condensed earlier also quietly dissipated. "Why, my disguise?" The Buddhist disciple looked very unhappy and frowned. He had planned everything, but never expected that he would be seen through. And it was at this moment that Li Muxio surrendered. After the star envoy announced the end, Li Muxio snorted coldly and said, "What a clever trick. You deliberately trick others into playing along, claiming it's a favor. Then, in the end, you deliberately kill them without mercy, using their blood and energy to nourish your demonic body. Am I right? Luckily, I've managed to expose you. Your Buddha body has already reached the peak of the Divine King. You're only one step away from becoming a quasi-sage. I think that final step should be your demonic body. What a pity. Your demonic body is only a little short of blood and energy. You can quietly break through to the quasi-sage level. In the end, you can rewrite the battle situation and take first place. No one present will be your opponent." After saying that, Li Muxio left without looking back. Hearing what the other party said, the Buddhist disciple gritted his teeth and felt like vomiting blood. He didn't expect that everything he did was seen through by the other party. If I had known this earlier, I shouldn't have been so greedy for this little bit of blood. At this moment, everyone reacted. This Buddhist disciple is just one step away from becoming a quasi-saint. Holy shit, what a bombshell. They hadn't realized how serious this was. They looked at the demonic energy on the Buddha's body, and it seemed that only a wisp of blood was missing to match the Buddha's light. Seeing this, they sighed. It really is. The humans from the Xintian territory were absolutely right. Instantly, the Tianjiao were filled with fear, unable to imagine how disadvantageous it would be for them if the other party had not exposed the Buddha secret today. At this moment, Xianjia, Hu Yaoyao, and a group of seated players all had serious expressions. Obviously, it is also extremely threatening to them. At this moment, Li Qixin and the others also reacted. So this is the plan he was talking about. Li Qixin murmured, and when he saw the true form of the Buddha revealed, his face was also filled with shock. For a moment, his expression was somewhat complicated. He knew very well that his brother was eliminated in this round, but he still chose to make it public. His purpose was not only for the future hope of their Xintian territory. If the other party really breaks through to the quasi-saint realm later, even Brother Nangong and Goddess Su will find it difficult to cope. It is even very easy to lose your life without knowing it. Wang Teng and the others were also full of admiration. They had never thought that Li Muxiu, alone, could actually do such a thing and even suffered a serious injury. If it were an ordinary person, they would have given up long ago, even if they realized that there was something wrong with the other party. And not far away. It's quite interesting. It's actually the legendary twin body. If he really reaches the quasi-saint level, I'm afraid he will really trick me. Nangong Chen saw the scene on the ring and muttered to himself. Su Li also nodded, her pretty face very solemn. She knew very well that the gap between a quasi-saint and a god king was a world of difference. She could defeat the peak god king, but she still had no chance of winning against the quasi-saint. We have to thank the other party, Li Muxiu. He is a real man. He helped us. Nangong Chen looked at the bleeding body not far away, who was being treated by Lu Dezhu and others, and sighed. Although it really didn't make much difference to him whether he was a quasi-saint or not. After all, he was wearing the robe of his sect leader, which could withstand the attacks of the immortal king. Wearing it in a battle of this level would make him almost invincible, and he had time to deal with it. However, Su Li is different. She doesn't have such a magical weapon like herself. If she is really tricked by the other party, she will have nowhere to cry. Okay, I owe him a favor, Nangong Chen said silently in his heart. Fuzi left the arena with a rage. Before leaving, he glanced coldly in the direction of Xintian territory and said through gritted teeth, "Just wait. Even if I'm not a quasi-saint, I'll still slaughter you like dogs. As long as I'm here, don't even think about reaching a higher rank." Wanqin secretly saw this scene, took a deep breath, and the horns on his head flashed with magical light. It's a good thing I didn't let the demonic will of this Buddhist disciple devour his last bit of blood and energy. If he were to step into the realm of quasi-saint, I'm afraid earth-shaking changes would occur. By then, I'm afraid even I wouldn't be able to defeat him. Thinking of this, he felt somewhat relieved. He glanced at Li Muxiu, who was healing in the distance, and sneered. "You didn't expect that, didn't you? This is a good deal for me. He won't be able to become a quasi-saint, and I will still be invincible. By then, I will still be number one, and no one can change this outcome." Suddenly, he couldn't help but think of that weird boy Nangong Chen, but it was only for a moment, and he shook his head with a hint of disdain on his lips. Why would I think of this kid? He's not even as good as a god king. If we were to fight, he would lose if he could even touch a corner of him. At this moment, in the outside world, after figuring out the reason for the incident, everyone sighed and praised Li Muxiu's plan. This is no simple matter. The appearance of another quasi-saint is enough to change the situation of the battle, not to mention that he is a quasi-saint who is concealing his strength. This is more terrifying than the one who is in the open. At least when you face a chaotic mind, you can still surrender, but if you face a Buddhist, you won't even know how you died. But even so, the strength of the twin Buddhas should not be underestimated. The opponent is already so strong even without using the magic body. If the twin physiques explode, I'm afraid Xianjia can even withstand it. This is the view of many people, vaguely ranking Fozi on the same level as Xuanjia. Seeing so many monsters this time, everyone sighed. Some people even said that this year's Immortal Collection will be the one with the highest gold content, and the monsters in it will be able to win the first place in all previous years. Not to mention, in addition to these ridiculously powerful monsters, there's also a quasi-saint from the Blood God cult, an existence that has never existed in any other generation. Of course, if someone can tear these monsters apart and rise straight up, or even defeat Luan Xian and win the championship, he will be an unparalleled legend. His reputation will resound throughout the 10 realms. However, this is just a hypothesis. For them in Xintian territory, the hope is the lowest. Chapter 289. For the top 10, Hai Wuhan was drawn. As the last battle of the day came to an end, the star envoy stood on the ring and slowly read out the names of the top 10 candidates who would advance. There is no doubt that Xian Jie and Xian Xiangling of the God Clan have both demonstrated outstanding combat power in previous battles. At the same time, Hu Yaoyao from the Demon Realm, Fozi from the Buddha Realm, and Luan Xin from the Blood God Sect. These 3 people also firmly entered the top 10. As for the last 5 people, one is Hai Wuhan from the Sea area, and the others are all well-known geniuses in the Xintian area. Nangong Chen, Su Li, Li Qixin, Jiang Yingyue. Upon hearing that 4 people from Zhenyanyu had made it into the top 10, Lu Dezhu and others burst into cheers, which aroused the envy of many geniuses present. What does it mean to be in the top 10? You have basically secured the Inheritance Temple. For the remaining rounds, if you don't want to fight, you can just surrender. Of course, the higher the ranking, the higher the star rating you will get in the Heritage Temple, and the greater the chance will be. However, this all depends on the wishes of these geniuses themselves. Congratulations, Brother Nangong and Goddess Su, you've made it to the top 10. You truly deserve to be called the immortal couple. Li Muxiu also bowed and congratulated with a smile on his face. Wang Tung and others were also nearby, congratulating with respect on their faces. Not only on their side, but also on Li Qixin's side, many people sent their blessings and encouragement. After hearing this, Nangong Chen also responded with a cupped hand, saying calmly, "It was just luck." Lucky? After hearing this, everyone's mouths twitched. For Nangong Chen, it was indeed a fluke, but with his strength, it would probably not be a problem for him to enter the top 10. Su Li also smiled slightly and thanked them. Her voice was sweet and pleasant, and she was very virtuous beside Nangong Chen. The 2 of them just stood there, and their beautiful faces were pleasing to the eye and very comfortable. After exchanging pleasantries, they left to rest. And soon, another person came up. This person was tall and strong, with a domineering face. Who else could it be but the Overlord? Li Qixin also smiled and wished the 2 of them to enter the top 10. Then his expression gradually became solemn, and he slowly said, "Tomorrow's battle will not be easy. It will be a tough fight. Brother Nangong, if you draw the chaotic heart, you must surrender. You are the hope of our Xintian territory. You can't fall here easily." The same goes for Goddess Su. If you draw the chaos heart, you must surrender. The strength of a quasi-saint is far beyond our imagination. What's more, the other party is not an ordinary quasi-saint, but a leader among them. He looked at the 2 of them and gave them some sincere advice. Nangong Chen nodded slightly. He accepted the other party's advice, but whether to do it or not was his own choice. He has the sect leader's robe and the human emperor sword as his trump card. If he really runs into Luan Xin, he won't be at a loss. Besides, he's been unhappy with him for a long time. Su Li on the side also nodded, her beautiful eyes flashing, and no one knew what she was thinking. Seeing that the 2 had listened, Li Qixin breathed a sigh of relief. There was no other way. The talents shown by Nangong Chen and Su Li were already monstrous enough for him to pay attention to. He couldn't let such talents perish in this small, immortal treasure. Then, Li Qi seemed to remember something and continued. "With your talents, you have now obtained the qualifications to inherit the temple. There's no need to fight with them for ranking. They have no other choice but to strive for ranking. If their talent is extraordinary enough, as long as they enter the Heritage Temple, they will be chosen by the heroic spirits. You must have heard that the higher your ranking, the greater your chance of being recognized by those inheritances, right?" Nangong Chen nodded, his eyes showing some interest. He had heard of such a thing. So it seems that the other party really considered his situation and told him the best and safest option. However, he has never been a person who gives in easily. Moreover, this ranking is not only important for the Inheritance Temple behind, but also for whether he can enter the list of all realms. Thinking of this, he pretended to nod in agreement, but whether to do it or not was another matter. Of course, if you reject the other person, given their warm-hearted nature, they will probably have to nag you for a long time. When Li Qixin saw that he had listened carefully, he also showed an expression of teachable child and was very satisfied. Soon, Li Qixin said a few words and said goodbye and left. After he left, Nangong Chen breathed a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. The other party is too talkative and too warm-hearted, which is totally unbefitting of his reputation as an overlord. I don't know, if other people saw him like this in private, would they still call him a tyrant? Nangong Chen complained inwardly, his face looking a little tired. Su Li covered her mouth to hide her smile, her eyebrows curved, and she seemed to like seeing Nangong Chen looking so deflated, which was quite cute. Then, she looked at Li Qixin's back and said softly, "There's a reason for his temper. I heard from others that the 2 eldest sons of the Li family have been motherless since childhood. Because their father was busy, Li Qixin, as the eldest brother, seemed to have taken on the responsibility of taking care of his younger brother since he was 6 years old." After hearing this, Nangong Chen suddenly realized, and his eyes became complicated. Is that really the case? No wonder he's so warm-hearted and considerate of others. It's no wonder that although Li Muxiu didn't like listening to his brother's nagging and looked bored, he always listened to it. There is such a past between the 2 of them. A real man. Nangong Chen sighed and gave the other party a very high evaluation. At this moment, the outside world, after hearing the ranking announcement, everyone started talking about it. The Double Pupil man and the Ice Phoenix Goddess have both made it into the top 10. Oh my god, this is the first time a genius at the Great Power Realm has made it into the top 10. Compared to them, my own realm of great power seems fake. These two are truly freaks. They have completely refreshed my understanding of geniuses. I don't know how far they can go. They'll face tough opponents later on, and they won't be lucky enough to get by. It's going to be difficult. However, Overlord and Moon God are still performing steadily and have entered the top 10. Do they have any hope of breaking into the top 5? You know, they are at the Divine King level. I'm not saying this, but having 4 people from Xintian territory make it into the top 10 is already a blessing in disguise. As for the top 5, we still have to forget about it. But if I can really make it into the top 5, I'll be famous for all time and make a big splash in the region. From what they said, it can be seen that they are very satisfied with the ranking this time. It doesn't matter whether they make it into the top 5 or not. The best thing is to come back alive. In the Chu family, after seeing Chu Yan being eliminated in this round, everyone didn't feel too surprised, but just a little sorry. In general, they're satisfied with being in the top 10 and have no desire to move forward. However, after seeing that Nangong Chen and Su Li both entered the top 10, Chu Ruchuan's face became a little embarrassed and felt hot. She had previously said that it was a waste of places for these 2 people to enter, but she didn't expect that now. They really slapped her in the face. Not only did they make it into the top 10, they also far surpassed their own geniuses. At this time, a member of Chu Yan's clan mocked. It seems that the Saint's vision is still better than those old antiques that are about to be buried in the ground. Chu Ruchuan also clenched his fists, his face darkening to a frightening degree. He gritted his teeth and said, "That kid was lucky and just got a bye. I want to see who he can defeat in this round." She had nothing to say and could only argue that the other party was just lucky. After hearing this, many people laughed and did not continue to stimulate. And at this moment in the void, all the geniuses under our command have been eliminated. Only these 4 are left. I don't know how far they can go. An old man from Cheelan Gate side. After hearing this, a strong man also thought for a while and responded, "We should stop here. There's no other way. The gap is just too huge. Let's talk about Moon God and Overlord first. Although they have entered the middle stage of God King, there is still a certain gap between them and those seeds. As for the 2 people with double pupils, there's a huge difference in their cultivation. If they really faced each other, it would probably be extremely disadvantageous." After hearing this, everyone nodded. This was indeed the only possible outcome at the moment. That's okay. Moon Goddess making it to the top 10 has already far exceeded our expectations. Ha ha. An elder of the Jiang family laughed and said that it didn't matter. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone immediately envied him. I really don't know what kind of luck the Jiang family has to have a monster like Yueshin. The value of being in the top 10 is self-evident. Of course, if you obtain inheritance in the Inheritance Temple, you will definitely become an immortal in the future. This is an immortal, and if one person succeeds, the whole family will also benefit. It is hard to imagine how powerful those forces will be in the future. Howren Pavilion. In the highest attic, Elder Xiong looked at the young man in the projection. Not long ago, he was only in the top 100 of the heavenly ranking, but now, he has grown into such a monster. It can even be ranked in the top 10 among the 10 domains. It seems that choosing to make friends with him that day was a wise choice. Elder Xiong murmured to himself that his son's survival, until now, was almost entirely due to the other party. If it weren't for Nangong Chen, he would have died in the first round, and even in the second round, facing Wan Xin, he would have died inexplicably. As for Yu Russian, who came out after his retreat, he was stunned when he saw that the other party had entered the top 10 of the 10 domains, and his face looked unimaginable. But then, the corners of his mouth gradually couldn't be suppressed, and his expression gradually became ecstatic. So, doesn't that mean I have fought against the top 10 in the 10 domains? Although I was knocked down by a punch at that time, it can still be considered a fight. Thinking that the other party would become a powerful man in the future and someone would write his memoirs, his name might be left there for the world to worship. In a certain month and year, Yu Russian, a disciple of Howren Pavilion, once fought against him. Ha, I can brag about this forever. Yu Russian laughed loudly. His expression was very crazy, as if he had picked up millions of spirit stones, and his saliva was almost flowing out of his excitement. Not far away, a disciple saw this, and a trace of fear appeared on his face. Hiss, senior brother has gone crazy. The next day, on the battlefield of heaven and earth, seeing the star envoy descending onto the stage, everyone slowly opened their eyes, revealing a hint of excitement. Today, you will witness with your own eyes the battle between the top 5. This is a real fight between dragons and tigers, a contest between top geniuses. Soon, 10-star tokens fell into the hands of the contestants. When the others saw this, their eyes were filled with anticipation. Who would be their opponent? Nangong Chen flipped open the token, and when he saw the name on the back, his eyes froze, and then a hint of amusement appeared at the corner of his mouth. The person he hit was none other than the arrogant Hai Wuhan. On the other side, after seeing who his opponent was, Hai Wuhan's expression changed, his pupils shrank slightly, and then he looked at Nangong Chen. Coincidentally, Nangong Chen was also looking at him with a playful smile. Hai Wuhan clenched his fists and took a deep breath. He had never expected that he would actually run into this killer god. What should he do? From what he had observed before, the opponent's strength was far greater than his. Forget it. Let's give it a try. We can't surrender without a fight. Hai Wuhan showed a ruthless look on his face and decided that even if he couldn't win, he would not let the other party win too comfortably. He just couldn't believe that a kid who hadn't even reached the level of a god king could kill him so easily. And Su Li, who was standing aside, happened to draw Jiang Yingwei. It's her. Su Li opened her red lips slightly, her beautiful eyes showing a hint of surprise, but she quickly regained her composure. She didn't know much about Jiang Yingwei. She only knew that she was ranked second on the heavenly ranking. Since she had been drawn, she would see who could advance. She would not let anyone down. However, she had seen several of the other party's previous battles. All she could say was that the wins were a bit strange, but she couldn't tell where. Always be a little stronger than the opponent and just happen to win. Su Li didn't think much about it and concentrated on preparing for battle. Not far away, Jiang Yingyue's delicate and cold face curled up slightly when she saw the name on the token, revealing a beautiful smile. If my memory hadn't awakened, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to defeat you. Well, let me see how powerful this world's Ice Phoenix divine body is, she muttered to herself, with an inexplicable meaning flashing in her eyes. This was a temporary decision she made when she became interested. She had originally planned to surrender as soon as the battle started. After all, she wanted to return to the upper realms secretly and couldn't be too conspicuous. However, after seeing that the person she was fighting against was Su Li, her mind changed and she decided to have some fun. As for Li Qixin, his luck was rather bad, as he actually drew Xianjie. After seeing the result of the draw, Li Qixin was stunned for a moment, but then miraculously he did not get discouraged, and his eyes burst with full fighting spirit. He had heard that the other party was the champion of the previous session. He wanted to see how big the gap was between him and the strongest person of the previous session. Chapter 290 Li Qixin was defeated, and everyone was in despair. The first battle will be between Li Qixin of the Xintian realm and Xuanjie of the Zhangtian realm. On the stage, the star envoy spoke calmly, his eyes calm. As soon as he finished speaking, there was an uproar in the audience. Did I hear correctly? The first match is against the previous Xianzong champion Xianjie. Oh my god, he's so powerful right from the start. That guy on the other side is going to be in trouble. To be able to enter the top 10 is no ordinary person. I have heard of Li Qixin. It is said that if it weren't for those two monsters that appeared in Xintian realm this time, he would be the strongest existence among the human race. Yeah. Now that you mention it, it reminds me. It seems that in the last session, the other party achieved quite good results despite being in his early 20s. So, both sides are the most powerful monsters in the world. It's hard to say who will win. After hearing this, everyone started talking and whispering to each other. I thought that Li Qixin was some unknown little-known figure, but after asking around, I found out that he actually had some strength. This made them even more suspenseful about the battle. Soon, an arrogant voice came from the burial sky realm. How ridiculous! Do you really think that the human race of the Xintian realm can really compare with the son of God of our race? Xianhong's eyes were cold, his tone filled with disdain, and he continued, My son of God was the champion of the last immortal treasure. Now he is even more of a genius, having stepped into the peak of the divine king. He is a monstrous creature that our divine clan has not encountered in thousands of years. Who is he? He's just an ordinary genius, only in the middle stage of the divine king. To be on par with the Son of God is already the greatest honor of his life. After Xianhong finished speaking, he snorted coldly and swept his strong eyes around. No one dared to refute him. As a member of the God clan, he naturally would not allow others to insult the strongest genius in their clan, even though he also disliked Xianjie in his heart. But he knew very well how powerful Xianjie was. He was able to stand out from such a powerful family and kill countless monsters of the same clan to be born. How could an unknown junior be compared with him? After these words were spoken, everyone couldn't help but frown. That being said, this person is too arrogant. All of a sudden, Many people were expecting the human prodigy named Li Qixin to cause some trouble to the other party, at least not let the other party win too easily. On the other side, in Xintian territory, Wang Teng and others frowned and felt unhappy after hearing this. This lackey of Xuanjie is truly loyal. Lu Dazhu whispered with a somewhat cold tone. Seeing this, Chao Li wanted to curse back, but was stopped by Li Qixin. Forget it. There's no need to compete with him too much. This kind of person is not worth it. Li Qixin frowned calmly and shook his head. Winning or losing is no longer important. Just try your best. Thinking of this, he stepped on a void, his figure flashed, and in an instant he arrived on the ring. On the other side, Xianjie had already arrived at the ring. He was wearing a black golden robe and was surrounded by fairy light. His facial features were very strange and perfect, and his aura was as deep as the abyss. Just standing there, he exuded an extremely terrifying pressure. After the people in the audience felt it, their faces changed drastically, their pupils suddenly shrank, and they retreated one after another. Some of them even vomited blood, and their bodies became unstable under this pressure. Their eyes were filled with shock. They had never expected that a person of the same generation could bring such a terrifying sense of oppression. Is this the last year's champion? Even Li Qixin felt as if he was facing a formidable enemy, his eyes filled with horror. He had never felt such great pressure from any other genius. This person doesn't look like a person of the same generation at all. Instead, he looks like a peerless strong man who walked out a sea of blood and corpses. Call! Such a shocking aura made him take a deep breath, and then a shocking fighting spirit burst out from his soul, soaring into the sky, making the heaven and earth shake. You are the supreme evildoer of the gods, and I am the light of the human race, the overlord. Such surging momentum shocked many people, who looked at the high-spirited man in battle suit on the stage. Interesting. Xianjie was a little surprised, and the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. His golden eyes were filled with divinity. He looked at Li Qixin and said, "If you can force even 30% of my strength out of you, you will be famous all over the world." When these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. What kind of confidence and dominance does one need to say such words? Li Qixin's eyes were cold. He was not a clay man. The repeated humiliation from the other party had already made him furious. As the star envoy announced the start of the battle, Li Qixin took action. Wow! The golden halberd crossed the void, forming a dazzling cold light, which was extremely shocking. The power it emitted seemed to be able to tear the space apart. At the same time, Li Qixin activated his domineering body, and in his eyes, a golden flame flickered like a burning magic lamp, which made people extremely nervous. The next moment, a domineering and scorching glow enveloped the surface of his body, making Li Qixin reborn, as if he had become a different person. The energy released was earth-shaking. I'm afraid that if any god king were here and faced with this attack, he would die in regret. Born to be a tyrant. In the audience, some sharp-eyed people recognized this physique and exclaimed. He was born with a domineering body, which was also the 9th-grade divine body among all the heavens and worlds. It was the purest combat physique among the domineering bodies. People with this kind of physique would surely achieve great things in the future. Seeing the dazzling halberd light falling, Xianjie raised his eyebrows slightly, raised his hand, and a white light burst out, forming a crystal barrier. Boom! The tip of the halberd collided with the strange barrier, and a gust of wind erupted, sweeping across the area. If it weren't for the barrier on the arena, the nearby stars would probably be shattered by this power. One can imagine how horrific the aftermath of the battle between the two people on the stage was. Soon, the air wave dissipated, leaving only two figures standing on the stage. One of them was covered in blood, with countless tiny crystals piercing his flesh. He was bleeding profusely, and his face was very pale, but he still tried his best to attack the other person. The other person, dressed in a divine robe, spotless, his figure flashing like lightning, roaming around the ring, constantly dodging the opponent's attacks, with a relaxed expression. The seriously injured person was none other than Li Qixin, while the one who was in good condition was Xianjie. When seeing this scene, the pupils of the geniuses in the audience suddenly shrank. What happened? Someone couldn't help but ask. The fight between geniuses can often change a lot in an instant, and it just so happened that they didn't see clearly what happened in that instant. The power of God, the Li Wang shield. It's the magical power that Xian Hong used before. At this time, a genius seemed to have discovered something and said in shock. Everyone was shocked when these words came out. Li Wang shield? How could it explode into pieces? And isn't this a defensive magical power? Their hearts were filled with confusion and doubt. At this time, Xian Hong spoke up and explained leisurely. What do you know? The Son of God is a freak whose bloodline concentration is close to perfect. He can use all the divine powers of the Protoss and exert even stronger effects. After hearing this, the other geniuses also showed a look of realization on their faces and then looked at Xianjia on the ring with an increasingly serious expression, their eyes full of fear. The power of God is the innate magical power of the God clan. An ordinary genius can only obtain one blessing in his lifetime, but Xianjia can use all the power of God without any restrictions. This is enough to make the opponent invincible in the battle. Moreover, unlike Xianhong, the other party does not even need to ask the gods for permission before using his power, but can release it in a moment. This is the most terrifying thing. After hearing this, Wang Teng and the others were stunned at first, and then their eyes became more and more worried as they looked at Li Qixin on the stage. This Xuanjia is too invincible. They have no idea how to win. No wonder the opponent was undefeated in the last session. What should I do then? Li Muxiu clenched his fists. On the ring, two figures intertwined. Although Li Qixin's attack was very fierce, it was still easily resolved by the opponent. However, he did not counterattack, but instead acted like a cat teasing a mouse. Too slow. Are you the #1 prodigy in Xintian territory? You're nothing special, even weaker than that woman. Xuanjia did not forget to mock during the battle. The woman he was referring to was naturally Su Li from before. After hearing this, Li Qixin's eyes remained calm, not affected at all. He continued to attack madly, urging his domineering body and the dazzling halberd light intertwined in the void, slashing towards the opponent. Seeing that the other party was unmoved and even full of fighting spirit, Xianjia's eyes turned cold. He hated being ignored the most, especially by such a weak ant. A blade of light condensed in his hand. The cold light was dazzling, and in an instant, surging divine power rolled in the air. Everyone's faces were stunned, as if they could smell the breath of death in this blade of light, so close that the discomfort made them feel fear. It seemed that as long as they fell, their bodies, including their souls, would be mercilessly torn apart by this blade of light and annihilated on the spot. 1,000 light blades, the supreme magical power of the God clan, can tear apart the soul and sever the flesh. It is the ultimate killing technique. In the same realm, no defense can withstand this attack. After seeing this, someone seemed to remember something and spoke. After hearing this, everyone was shocked. I didn't expect this attack to be so unstoppable, and all defenses within the same realm could not withstand it. On the ring, Li Qixin also felt the extremely dangerous aura in the opponent's hand. With years of combat experience, he reacted instantly and killed the opponent's physical body. We must not let Xuanjia release this attack, otherwise it will be dangerous. It's too late. Seeing this, Xianjia shook his head, whispered something, and then mercilessly flicked his fingertips, and the light blade burst out. The speed is so fast that it is unimaginable. From a distance, you can only see the flickering light, but it can easily tear the void apart. Li Qixin's pupils shrank, and then he roared. War King, concentrate! Boom! The next moment, a Dharma image condensed and shot straight into the sky. It was a general wearing ancient armor. His aura was as deep as the abyss, his sword eyes were icy cold, and every move he made exuded great majesty, like a god in heaven, bringing a huge impact to people. The Dharma image condensed by Li Qixin is the War King, one of the 4 ancient kings, the king of the human race in ancient times. When this Dharma image appeared, everyone present opened their eyes wide and was extremely shocked. It was the first time they saw the Dharma world of a human race. Unlike other races, when the human race is about to reach the realm of God King, they can condense the Dharma image to fight and thus become God King, while other races directly skip this step when they become God King. This also shows the difference in the cultivation methods between the human race and all other races in the heavens. Even Xianjia couldn't help but be stunned after the Dharma image was condensed. It was hard to imagine how powerful this ancient hero must have been when he was alive. His eyes were as bright as torches, like a beam of astonishing light, as he looked at the statue, but soon he revealed a sneer. It's just a projection. With your current strength, it's a fool's dream to think you can activate it. If you were at the peak of the Divine King realm and urge him to fight me, perhaps I would be interested. However, you are still too weak, causing your Dharma image to be as thin as paper. Forget it. It's time to end this boring game. Xuanjia spoke slowly, his eyes looking down on others and his tone sounding superior. The next moment, the light wheel that had flown out earlier actually destroyed the War King's Dharma image and dissipated it in the world. After feeling that his Dharma image was destroyed, Li Qixin suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale, and with a bitter smile, he could only surrender. Upon seeing this, the Star Envoy extinguished the light blade with one hand and announced calmly, Heaven Burial Territory, Xianjia wins. After hearing this, Xuanjia's face was very calm, and he was not too surprised by the result. He looked towards the direction of Xiantian realm below and spoke to Nangong Chen with his lips moving slightly. This is what happens to you if you go against me. Nangong Chen's eyes were dim, and the depths of his eyes were calm. Yet there was a sign of impending storm. After a long time, he seemed to have thought of something, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He had never seen anyone who wanted to die early. At this moment, Li Qixin's body was covered with wounds. He fell to the ground with his black hair disheveled. He looked nothing like the high-spirited man he was at the beginning. At the same time, due to the destruction of his Dharma image, his cultivation level dropped directly from the middle stage of the God King to the early stage of the God King. After he felt it, he looked a little lonely. Due to the heavy consumption of the battle, he even staggered when walking and fainted. Seeing this, Li Muxiu and others' pupils shrank slightly, and several figures burst out and rushed onto the stage in an instant. At this moment in the outside world, after seeing Ba Wang's crushing defeat to Xianjia, the whole audience fell silent. After a long time, someone spoke slowly, his tone full of disbelief. The Overlord actually lost? Oh my god, this demon from the God Clan is truly too terrifying. In the entire immortal treasures, who else can defeat him? Is this the champion from last year? You know, Overlord was #1 on our heavenly ranking, yet in his opponent's hands, he's being toyed around like a toy. Just how huge is the gap between them? They no longer had the same excitement and joy as before. This first battle among the top 10 was like a basin of ruthless cold water, which woke them up harshly. Even if I made it into the top 10, what would the problem be? The gap with other domains couldn't be made up in a short period of time. For a moment, everyone felt desperate and suffocated and felt deeply powerless. What are you afraid of? If we lose, we lose. We still have the Moon Goddess, the one with double pupils, and Goddess Su. We still have hope. This is just a battle. Someone also spoke up to comfort him. After hearing this, everyone's expressions eased a little. Yes, they still had hope. There were still 3 people left. We can't all be eliminated in the second round. Chapter 291, Fox Yao Yao versus Buddha. The demon is defeated. Return to the battlefield of heaven and earth. The source of the Dharmakaya was severely damaged, causing Overlord's cultivation to drop. His breathing became unstable, but fortunately, his life is not in danger. Looking at Li Qixin lying on the ground, Ximeng treated him and then spoke slowly. After hearing this, Li Muxiu finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then, with a cold glint in his eyes, he gritted his teeth and said, to destroy the origin of the Dharma, that Xuanjia is truly ruthless. Anger was flowing in his chest, and the surging murderous intent made him want to kill the other party with his own hands. Then the Overlord is... Destroying the origin is tantamount to cutting off someone's retreat. I never thought Xuanjia would be so cruel. Well, now I have to think about how to conceal this after the Overlord wakes up. If the Overlord finds out about this, I'm afraid he will find it hard to accept. Lu Dazhu and others were also shocked. They did not expect that the origin of Li Qixin's Dharma image was damaged so seriously. You must know that the Dharma image is the key core to entering the realm of the God King, and the Dharma image is extremely difficult to carve. It takes a very long time to carve a Dharma image, sometimes hundreds of years, sometimes decades. Even for these geniuses, it takes a lot of time. If the Dharma image is destroyed and the origin is damaged, it will be difficult to start over. If one cannot cultivate the Dharma image again, it is almost equivalent to cutting off a person's foundation. Thinking of this, their faces became a little gloomy and their fists clenched involuntarily. Is this the cruelty of reality? Even the Overlord, #1 on the heavenly ranking, cannot escape the day when his Dharma image is destroyed. They were angry, unyielding, and wanted revenge, but when they thought that the other party was a monster from the God Clan and the champion of the previous Xinzong, they felt deeply powerless. Yes, no matter how angry you are, in front of absolute strength, everything is just wishful thinking. At this moment, Li Qixin, who was lying on the ground, had opened his eyes at some point and was listening quietly to the voices beside him, looking dazed for a moment. He knew that his Dharma image had been destroyed, and he had no other choice. In that situation, his only chance to survive was to sacrifice his Dharma image. He wanted to live and didn't want to die so soon. He hadn't seen his brother grow up yet, nor had he led his people to glory. Brother, you're awake. Li Muxiu was the first to notice that Li Qixin had woken up. His pupils shrank, and he spoke. As soon as these words were spoken, the voices of others suddenly stopped. They stared blankly at Li Qixin and found that his eyes had opened without them knowing when. In that case, everything they just said was heard by the other party. For a moment, Lu Daju wanted to cover his mouth, blaming himself for saying such words. When others saw this, they seemed to be hesitant to speak, their eyes flickering, but they didn't know how to comfort the other person. After all, if they knew that the Dharma image they had worked so hard to condense was destroyed, they would probably find it difficult to accept it. Li Qixin was not as desperate, angry, or unwilling as they had imagined. Instead, he waved his hand calmly and smiled at everyone with relief. It doesn't matter. Let the Dharma image be destroyed. As long as I'm still alive, give me time, and I can condense the Dharma image again. One day, I will avenge this. His voice was soft, but it carried a tremendous determination, a confidence that he wouldn't give up until he reached the summit. When these words were spoken, everyone was stunned and stood there in a daze. Okay, brother, I believe you can do it. After a long time, Limushio spoke first, smiling, with tears faintly visible in his eyes. The next battle will be between Buddha's son from the Buddha realm and Fox Yao Yao from the demon realm. On the stage, the star envoy announced calmly. As soon as these words were spoken, there was an uproar. Haven't the demon realm and the Buddha realm always been at odds? This is getting interesting. Yeah, both of them are seeded players, and it's unclear who is stronger. Who cares who's strong or weak? As long as it's fun to watch, that's all. Everyone was talking about it with excitement. Obviously, this battle would be the focus of the battle. In the duel between the two seeded players, who will be the winner? After all, in the previous battle, the strength displayed by the two was extremely strong. However, ever since the Buddha's twin bodies were revealed, everyone has become more optimistic about him. At this moment, in the demon realm, a group of geniuses were also cheering for Hu Yao Yao, very enthusiastically. The princess will definitely win. If she wins, she'll make a fortune. If she loses, she'll also not lose anything. Yes, princess, your body is precious. Don't let this damn bald donkey hurt you. How is that possible? I believe the princess will definitely win and spread the name of our demon realm. After hearing these sounds, Hu Yao Yao looked helpless. All right, just talk about it. Don't keep wailing like a ghost. It's too unpleasant to listen to. After the words fell, Hu Yao Yao moved lightly with lotus steps, crossed the void, and arrived at the center of the ring in an instant. On the other side, the Buddhist disciples had already taken their positions and had been waiting for a long time. When he saw Hu Yao Yao coming, he narrowed his eyes slightly and showed a very hypocritical smile. Donor Hu, long time no see. The Buddha's light emanating from his body was very golden, carrying a holy aura, which made Hu Yao Yao feel uncomfortable. Hu Yao Yao frowned slightly and said coldly, "It's been a long time since I last saw you. You act like we're very close. Stop flattering yourself." As soon as these words were spoken, the whole world fell silent for a moment. No one expected that in the face of the Buddhist disciples' hypocritical courtesy, Hu Yao Yao didn't buy it at all and directly retorted. At this moment, everyone was trying to hold back their laughter, feeling a little uncomfortable. Puff, I don't know who it is suddenly. After hearing this, the Buddhist disciple was also stunned, as if he had heard it wrong. It took him a while to react, and his face became gloomy. Bitch, you're so shameless. I didn't seem to have provoked her, but who knew she would get so angry? Thinking of this, he put away his smile and said coldly, "You are indeed a beast. You really don't understand human nature. I will let this little monk take you in later." Hu Yao Yao's beautiful eyes were frosty, and she gritted her teeth. "You bald ass, if I don't beat you to pieces later, I won't be called Hu anymore." At this moment, Hu Yao Yao was like a small beast with its fur standing on end. He was very angry, and the 9 white tails behind him like cattails were dancing, bursting out with a demonic aura that rushed into the sky. This demonic energy is extremely powerful, like the reincarnation of an almighty demon, bringing people a great sense of oppression. After seeing this, many geniuses began to tremble slightly. This was the instinctive fear and apprehension from their souls. On the other side, the Buddha's son had a face as bright as the moon. He snorted coldly and also burst out with astonishing Buddha's light, as if a giant Buddha had descended into the world in the void, making everything pale in comparison. The collision of these two surging auras was like the collision of thunder in the sky, with lightning interweaving and emitting bursts of thunderous noises. Although the two had not started fighting, the atmosphere was already tense. Such a scene made everyone's scalps tingle and their feet go weak. Is this the aura between the seated players? If they were standing on the ring, they would probably be blown away in an instant. And this happened in just a moment. The next moment, as the star envoy announced the start of the battle, the two figures instantly disappeared from spot. In the void, Fox Yao Yao was born with divine power. Although she had not yet awakened the remaining 6 tails, the 3 awakened tails had already made her body almost invincible among the gods, comparable to the descendants of true dragons. She was extremely fast. With a loud bang, she raised her pink fist and smashed it towards the figure of the Buddhist disciple. When the Buddhist disciple saw this, his eyes became even colder. How dare you? She actually dared to directly compare her physical body with his. Didn't she know that what she cultivated was the legendary, indestructible body of Vajra? He just couldn't believe it. Could it be that his own body couldn't be stronger than a fox? The Buddhist disciple also made a fist seal with his hands, and golden beams burst out from his eyes, which made people tremble. At the same time, the aura on his body was constantly rising. When the time was right, he also punched out. This fist print was filled with surging Buddha light and powerful energy, and it was much more powerful than the opponent's plain and simple punch. In the audience, after seeing this scene, everyone secretly shook their heads for Hu Yaoyao. With this punch, I'm afraid the demon princess will be crippled. Yes, their Buddha realm has always focused on physical training. I heard there's a technique called the Vajra indestructible body, which can only be learned by those of the Buddha clan. They sighed in their tone, as if they felt sorry for Hu Yaoyao. After all, it was a pity that such a beautiful and peerless beauty would be beaten beyond recognition by the other party in the next moment. In the distance, Nangong Chen saw this scene. His eyes flashed, as if there was a meaning, and the corners of his mouth curled up secretly. With his double pupils, he could clearly see how much divine power was contained in Hu Yaoyao's punch. It looked like someone was going to be in trouble. When Suli saw this scene, her brows slightly frowned. Although she disliked this stinky fox, the other party had helped their Tianyuan realm after all, and she didn't want to see him lose so ugly. Why are you fighting him? Are all the women in the demon realm brainless? Suli said, sounding somewhat puzzled. That's not necessarily true. At this moment, after hearing this, the smile in Nangong Chen's eyes became even brighter, and he said something mysteriously. Suli was a little surprised when she heard this, and then she looked towards the arena, her eyebrows slightly raised. Could there be a turning point? However, the next moment, the scene on the ring shocked everyone. I saw that Hu Yaoyao threw a light punch, and it actually knocked the Buddhist disciple away with one punch. Even the fist print with the brilliant Buddha light was destroyed in an instant. The Buddhist disciple fell like a kite with a broken string, drawing a graceful arc in the air and spitting blood from his mouth. He opened his eyes wide, somewhat in disbelief. His body of diamond covered with golden light was shattered by that punch, and blood and flesh were everywhere. It didn't stop until he hit the barrier and a loud bang was heard. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. They stood there in a daze, and their hearts were greatly shocked. What the hell is this? Someone was shocked by Hu Yaoyao's natural supernatural power and murmured. However, the battle had not yet stopped. A ray of light came out of the Buddha's mouth, and his eyes flashed like golden lamps. The next moment, the injured parts of his body recovered, and he was no different from the beginning. Such an amazing recovery speed also made everyone secretly amazed. Just as the Buddhist disciple was catching his breath and looking carefully, the sandbag-sized fist came towards him again. Boom! When Fox Yaoyao used her three tails, Fozi had no ability to resist at all. He was beaten dozens of times and was almost unrecognizable before he broke free from the attack. I want you dead. The Buddhist disciple had a swollen nose and face, and he gritted his teeth viciously, like the whisper of an evil spirit from the abyss. White bones were exposed on the surface of his body, and his limbs were twisted to the extreme. This is enough to show that the Buddhist disciple was suppressed by this violent attack and had no ability to fight back. Great Sun Buddha Palm. The Buddha's eyes burst in a golden light. One hand turned into a palm, an extremely terrifying aura condensed above him. The next moment, a giant Buddha's light palm covering the heaven and earth descended from the sky, and the power it exuded was enough to crush the space. This is the great magical power of the Buddha, and also the killer move of the Buddha. An ordinary peak-level God King would die on the spot under this blow. The aura he exuded was completely different from the Buddha's palm he released in the previous battle. He was hiding very deeply. Seeing this move, everyone's faces became solemn. Just when everyone was wondering how Hu Yaoyao would dodge the opponent's fatal move, Hu Yaoyao remained calm, her golden hair scattered like gold, beautiful and charming. Her almond eyes revealed a hint of cruelty, and then burst out with a captivating demonic aura. Behind her, the 9 jade white tails suddenly grew larger, piercing through the sky and earth, and actually directly blocked the Buddha's palm. The two collided, unleashing an unprecedented power that instantly swept across the entire area. Boom! Everyone saw that the 9 tails were like magical weapons, easily piercing through the Buddha's palm, piercing it, and reaching out to the Buddha's son behind him. Obviously, if the Buddhist has no way to deal with it, he will die here. You forced me to do this. The Buddhist disciple could no longer endure it and roared. In an instant, the twin bodies appeared, half god and half demon. Their eyes were one bright and one dark, and the Buddha's light and the evil light intertwined, which was extremely terrifying. He stretched out his hands, and out of the void, an extremely terrifying devil's claw and a Buddha's palm covered down and headed towards the nine-tailed town. At this moment, the aura of the Buddha has vaguely reached that of a semi-saint, and the magical powers he releases are even close to those of a god king. Interesting, but that's all. Seeing this, Hu Yao's beautiful eyes flashed, and her tone was somewhat disdainful. The next moment, Hu Yao transformed into his true form as a celestial fox, as white as jade, with narrow and long demon eyes, and his body covered with incomparably bright hair. The aura he exuded was extremely terrifying, as if an ancient demon had resurrected. The 9 giant tails behind her gathered towards the center, forming a silver halo. Endless demonic power intertwined in the void, extremely surging. Heavenly demon breaks. At this moment, some of the monsters in the audience saw this attack, and their faces were extremely shocked. Tianyuan is the supreme magical power of the Sky Fox clan, which comes from the Demon Emperor. Only those with extraordinary talent can comprehend it. Once this move is used, it can overwhelm mountains and seas and swallow everything. Unexpectedly, their princess has already learned. Chapter 292. The Buddha's son was defeated. Xiangling regrets. Boom! In the void, the twin Buddha's devilish palms press down, their power surging like the sea, as if to annihilate everything. It blocks out the sky and even covers the starry sky. The dark shadows fill the sky, giving people a great sense of oppression. When everyone saw this, their pupils suddenly shrank, and they couldn't help swallowing. However, just as the giant palm, where the Buddha's light and the evil light were intertwined, shook, a deep blue beam of light, like dawn tearing through the darkness, erupted from the ground without any warning, rushing straight into the sky with the power to destroy everything. The demon is broken. Although this beam of light is extremely small compared to the giant palm, it exudes a suffocating and dangerous aura, as if it is going to destroy everything. When the two collided, a blinding white light erupted, and layers of power spread out like waves. It was so intense that if there was no barrier to protect it, no one could believe how much damage it would cause. At this moment, everyone widened their eyes and stared intently, afraid of missing anything. They all knew that this was the strongest attack of the two, and the winner would be decided here. Who's winning? After a long time, the white light dissipated and someone murmured, "He should be the twin Buddhas, right? He is the legendary Buddha and devil, practicing both in one body. He is the most evil among the evildoers in the world." That's right. Although we don't like that person's behavior, we still recognize his strength. After all, a twin body can actually become the #1 in the Buddha realm, a place where everyone hates demon cultivators. However, the results are not yet known, and what we have discussed is just speculation. If the great god of the demon race is too powerful, it is not impossible for him to defeat the Buddha's disciple. At this moment, everyone was guessing the final result, their eyes flashing. Back in the demon realm, the demons were also terrified and couldn't believe it. If Hu Yao was injured, how would they explain to the Demon King when they returned? So they would rather die themselves than let Hu Yao die. However, after seeing the Buddha's terrifying methods, they felt a little insecure at the moment and could only pray that the princess was fine. Not far away, on the human side. Who do you think will win? Nangong Chen felt a little bored, so he asked Suli beside him. At this moment, his pupils were dim as he looked at the arena, as if he could see through everything in the smoke and dust. After hearing this, Suli raised her eyebrows, then thought carefully for a while and responded, "It should be that Buddha's son. Since ancient times, those with twin bodies have always been at the forefront of the heavens and myriad worlds. Their terrifying methods are far beyond the ability of ordinary geniuses to resist." It seems to make some sense. Upon hearing this, Nangong Chen nodded slightly, expressing his agreement with her words. Seeing this, Su Li's lips curled up slightly, and she raised her beautiful face with a look of pride. "That is, you don't even see who I am." Before she could continue to rejoice, Nangong Chen's voice rang out again. "But unfortunately, you guessed wrong. It was Hu Yao who won." After she finished speaking, Su Li's beautiful eyes froze. At this moment, the smoke and white light on the stage completely disappeared, and only a figure in a monk's robe was seen lying in a pool of blood. On the other side, in the center of the ring, a weak cough was heard. I saw Hu Yao slumped on the ground. Her beautiful face looked a little pale at the moment, which was enough to show how much consumption this magical power had consumed. "I finally won. I'm so tired." Hu Yao was panting, her round chest heaving a little, and she looked tired. Then she slowly stood up, her beautiful eyes filled with pride, especially after feeling someone's gaze. At this moment, the starlight shone down, and the brilliant golden hair was extremely dazzling, reflecting on the girl's bright smile, leaving many people stunned. Even Nangong Chen looked at the girl sideways at her current appearance and raised his eyebrows slightly. But soon, he turned his head and looked elsewhere. He could feel a murderous gaze beside him. "Does it look good?" Suli narrowed her beautiful eyes, gritted her teeth, and asked. "Not as pretty as you." Nangong Chen shook his head lightly without any hesitation. As soon as she finished speaking, Su Li's pretty face flushed red, and the aggressive look she had before disappeared in an instant. She was stunned on the spot, as if the computer had crashed. If you look closely, you can seem to see a tiny bit of steam coming out of the girl's silver hair. Nangong Chen saw this out of the corner of his eye, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, as if he had expected it. Small 3-no, easy to pick up. If Chi Yao was still with Su Li at this moment, her mouth would probably be filled with dog food again. Demon Domain, Fox, Yao Yao wins. With the Star Messenger's announcement, the second battle also ended. The Buddhist disciple who was lying on the stage like a dead dog was knocked off the stage by the Star Envoy with a wave of his hand, without caring at all about the severity of his injuries. This also made the Buddhist disciple spit out a mouthful of blood after he regained consciousness, his eyes full of resentment. His clothes were dirty and disheveled, and he looked extremely miserable. He found it hard to accept that he had been defeated by the demons. At this moment, his heart of Taoism was vaguely broken. But then, his eyes became gloomy as he glanced at the people from Xiantian Domain. Seeing that they all had smiles on their faces, he couldn't help but clench his fists. It's all because of that human kid from before. If he hadn't interfered with my plan, my demonic body would have been fully developed long ago. I hate it. I hate it. Why there is always someone interrupting me at the critical moment. Humans, you deserve to die. At this moment, Fozi's hatred for Li Muxio and the entire human race reached its peak. He blamed all the reasons for his failure on these people. After seeing the Buddhist being knocked down and Hu Yaoyao coming down confidently, everyone present sighed. No one had expected that the Buddhist disciple who was so powerful before would be defeated by Hu Yaoyao. That is a Buddhist disciple in a twin state. It can be said that he is the strongest Buddhist disciple in history. Even under such circumstances, he was still no match for the princess of the demon realm who suddenly appeared. It is hard to imagine how terrifying Hu Yaoyao's talent must be. Thinking of this, everyone's eyes couldn't help but show deep fear. On the other side, Li Muxio and the others laughed and felt very happy when they saw the Buddhist disciple being beaten so miserably. Who told him to hurt Li Qixin before? He deserved it. He even wanted to kill him to silence him. He was dreaming. Of course, they also knew that Li Muxio played an indispensable role in Hu Yaoyao's victory over the opponent this time. It could be said that he indirectly influenced the battle situation. As soon as Hu Yaoyao came down, some people from the demon clan came to thank Li Qixin. Li Qixin waved his hand and bowed in response. After all, the other party was able to win because of their strong hard power. Knowing this information was just icing on the cake. If it were someone else, there would probably be no other way even if they knew, and they would just lose later. At this moment, in the outside world, after seeing such a wonderful battle, everyone's first reaction was shock, deep shock. The battle between these two people completely refreshed their cognition. It is hard to imagine that the monsters from other domains are now as terrifying in battle as the old monsters. For this reason, they couldn't help but frown and look worried. The stronger the opponent is, the greater the gap between them and other domains. Just take the Buddhist disciple who was defeated by Hu Yaoyao as an example. I am afraid that among the geniuses of their Xiantian domain, there are not many who can deal with him. He can be said to be invincible. Even such a terrifying genius was beaten so miserably by that demon-restricted woman. They didn't dare to imagine how strong Hu Yaoyao was. They had previously thought that she was a woman and would be weaker, but they didn't expect that she would slap them in the face. At this moment, everyone present was silent. They clearly realized the gap between the human race's genius and the other party. Even the supporters of the double pupil person were feeling somewhat hopeless at this moment. Even if the double pupil person made it into the top 5, how would they defeat these monsters later on? Not to mention, even though Hu Yaoyao is so strong, there is Xianjie who is like a mountain in front of her. As the first in the previous session, he is completely too strong. At this moment, the old men in the void also thought of this and sighed. If their Xiantian domain results were any worse today, even if one person advanced a lot, it would be acceptable. However, they still secretly hoped that someone could make it into the top 5. Return to the battlefield of heaven and earth. Not long after, the third battle of the day arrived, with Luanxin fighting against Xian Xiangling of the God Clan. As soon as Xian Xiangling came on stage, she was looked at by countless fiery gazes. There was no way. The other person was just too beautiful, with a transcendent divinity, like a goddess. At the same time, the opponent is also one of the seeded players this year. It is said that the identity behind him is extraordinary, which can be seen from the attitude of Xian Hong and others. Some people even secretly saw that even Xian Jie seemed to be respectful and bowed his head in front of this woman. This made everyone even more curious. What kind of identity did this girl have that could cause them, the gods, to act like this? However, after learning that his opponent was Wan Xin, everyone shook their heads and looked regretful. This time, unlike the last round of battle, which still held some suspense, there was no suspense at all. The opponent was a living quasi-saint. Any other genius would probably not be able to resist. Therefore, they were also very sure that this girl from the divine race would lose, without any surprise. In fact, just as they expected, Xian Xiangling was defeated by the opponent in just a few rounds. However, the fact that she could hold on for several rounds had already shocked everyone. They were all contemporary geniuses, and they all knew exactly what it meant to be able to hold out for so long against a veteran, powerful saint. Even the Buddha and Hu Yaoyao from before probably couldn't hold out for a few rounds. This is enough to show that this girl who suddenly appeared out of nowhere in the divine race has amazing talent. On the ring, as the Star Envoy announced the end of the battle, Wan Xin really couldn't be happy, because the opponent's flesh and blood was too tempting. He didn't even get it, and this little bug slipped away right under his nose. He was really annoyed. Xian Xiangling wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. A hint of disappointment seemed to appear on her flawless face as she murmured, "I only managed 3 rounds before my body ran out of strength. But if I kept fighting, I'd probably die. So forget it." After she finished speaking, she walked down to the stage with an expressionless face, and the geniuses made way for her. At this moment, even Hu Yaoyao showed a look of deep fear, but a hint of luck flashed in his eyes. Fortunately, she encountered Wan Xin. Otherwise, if she had drawn the other party, she would probably be defeated by her. What monster! She just watched the fight. Not only did the opponent hold on for several rounds, he even wanted to fight back. What an outrageous thought! As if the other party wasn't human, a divine king actually wanted to defeat a quasi-saint. In the distance, Xuanjie saw this scene and breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the other party was okay, it would be good. Otherwise, if something happened, he would probably be held accountable when he returned. He was also thankful that the other party had drawn Wan Xin. If he had drawn anyone else, they would probably have advanced. If the other party advanced, it would have been extremely stressful for him. He himself is not 100% sure that he can defeat Xian Xiangling. What others don't know is that this woman is a resurrected god in this world, a true god. In the future, when he enters the upper realm, any genius will pale in comparison to him. Xianjie thought to himself that even after a long time, he was still extremely shocked, and at the same time a little bitter and helpless. If the other party had not appeared, he would also be the most dazzling genius of the God Clan. What a pity. Now that 3 battles have passed, the people who watch them have feasted their eyes and are looking forward to who will fight next. Soon, the Star Envoy announced the candidates for the next round of battle, 2 women from Xintian territory, Su Li and Jiang Yingwei. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's faces were filled with shock, and then things gradually became exciting. Damn it. They made it into the top 5 and even got drawn into a civil war among their own geniuses. What kind of shit luck does the Xintian domain have? Li Qixin and the others were also ecstatic, as this meant that no matter who won the battle, one person from their Xintian domain would definitely be in the top 5, which could be said to be a direct submission. Moon Goddess, why don't you wait a moment and hold back when fighting with Goddess Su? After all, they're both our own geniuses. If you go too far, it might damage the relationship. When Jiang Yingwei was leaving, Li Qixin also spoke in a low voice, with a look of persuasion on his face. In fact, he was afraid that the other party could not defeat the Goddess Su. After all, Yushin was only in the middle stage of the Divine King, and Xian Hong, whom Su Li had defeated earlier, had even reached the peak of the Divine King. Even so, he was still defeated miserably by Su Li. Jiang Yingwei also saw through his thoughts, and said lightly on her cold face, "No. If it were anyone else, she might have listened, but the other person was the owner of the Ice Phoenix divine body in this world. This physique is of great origin. It is probably extremely extraordinary compared to other people here, even that god." Chapter 293, Su Li versus Jiang Yingwei. At this moment in the outside world, when they heard that the next battle would be between the Moon Goddess and the Ice Phoenix Goddess, everyone was stunned at first, and then their eyes showed ecstasy. This means that no matter who wins or loses this battle, one person from their Xintian domain will be able to enter the top 10. Judging from the current situation, It seems that Goddess Su has a greater chance of winning. Everyone thought of this. It seems that the heavens will not destroy my Xiantian realm. We will also have a day when our genius can enter the top 5. This can be considered a record-breaking achievement. Since ancient times, it seems no one has ever made it into the top 5 of the immortal treasures. Ha ha ha! This is truly a great honor for us. If 3 of us make it into the top 10 and 1 into the top 5, that would be unprecedented and we would be completely satisfied. At this moment, the onlookers who had been worried before finally smiled and spoke excitedly. For them, it was a complete surprise that someone could make it into the top 5. Have you forgotten about the one with double pupils? You should know that he hasn't even appeared yet. His opponent is the demon from the sea. Judging from his performance in the previous battle, he has a great chance of defeating his opponent. At this moment, someone said something in a cold voice. When these words were spoken, everyone's faces paused, and then they were somewhat shocked. Yes, the one with double pupils hasn't appeared yet. How can we just jump to conclusions and think that the other party can't defeat Hai Wuhan? Although the strength displayed by the previous person with double pupils was not as strong as those seed-like monsters, it was still very terrifying among other geniuses. However, after hearing this, a strong man present frowned slightly, shook his head, and said, "However, that's possible. After all, the previous battles were minor skirmishes, and some of the chosen ones hid their strength. Only in this round do they show off their skills and use their hidden cards. Then Hai Wuhan, is there a possibility that he also has a hidden card?" He didn't mean to undermine everyone's confidence, but his hope was so slim now that if the person with double pupils was really defeated, it would be difficult for them to accept it. Instead of that, it's better to lower their expectations in advance. After hearing this, everyone's faces regained a bit of rationality, and they were no longer as fanatical and excited as before. Yes, if the other party loses, what should we do? But even so, there are many people who are willing to believe that the person with double pupils can win and believe in the other party's undefeated myth. Of course, most of this group of people are young women who come from first-rate sex or wealthy aristocrats. In short, their identities are very prominent. This also made many men look helpless. Among these admirers, there were also people they liked, but the other party's attention did not seem to be on them. At this moment in the void, "I'm afraid your little girl from the Jiang family won't be able to defeat Goddess Su in this battle." The old man from Qilin Gate spoke slowly, stroking his beard. The Jiang family elder did not get angry after hearing this. After all, judging from her previous performance, the Goddess Su was indeed better than Jiang Yingwei. It doesn't matter. Both women are outstanding people from our Xiantian territory. No matter who wins, it will be a good thing for us. He smiled with relief and spoke calmly. But then his eyes narrowed slightly, a hint of meaning in them, and he slowly said, "But if Goddess Su wants to win, I'm afraid it won't be so easy. The moon goddess is no ordinary genius." When he said this, he smiled, without further explanation, and looked mysterious. Oh! When everyone saw this, their expressions changed slightly, and their eyes were full of curiosity. Return to the battlefield of heaven and earth. On the ring, 2 graceful women with peerless beauty, stunning figures, and cool temperaments stood there. It seemed that the 2 of them were so beautiful just by standing there that even the heaven and earth seemed a little dim. This also gave everyone present a feast for the eyes, and their eyes were burning with praise. We've never seen such a beautiful woman before. Compared to her, the women of my tribe are simply unbearable to look at. It's not an exaggeration to call her a fairy. She's so beautiful. Some of the Tianjiao even drooled and laughed. If I could marry one of these women, I would even live 1,000 years less. However, he was soon ridiculed by everyone in Xiantian territory. You're just a piece of rotten meat, and you still want to dream? Forget about living 1,000 years less. Even if you die here, I'm afraid no one will care. Wang Tung said sarcastically. Lu Dezhu also said with a smile, "My urine is yellow. I'm here to wake you up. Child, repeat after me. Don't dream of things that cannot come true. At the same time, Limusho also took out a scripture and continued to finish off the opponent in a gentle and elegant manner. The aggressiveness of these people is quite different, especially Limusho, who is full of sarcasm. As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of the geniuses who had just spoken turned red, as if they had suffered a great humiliation. They wanted to respond, but they could only stutter and could not utter a word for a long time. They really didn't expect that the human race's mouths could be so poisonous. Of course, this also made Hu Yaoyao, who saw this scene, have her almond eyes flashing and the corners of her mouth slightly raised. These people of the human race are really interesting. At least they are much better than these monsters who can't say a word of nonsense all day long. If I have a chance in the future, I will definitely visit Xintian territory. Hu Yaoyao thought secretly in her heart. What's wrong with us? I'm just stating the facts. I hope I don't poke your fragile glass heart. At this moment, Chali also spoke with a meaningful smile. What was their plan? They actually targeted the women of their Xintian domain. Besides, Goddess Su was Brother Nangong's first wife. How could they tolerate their nonsense? After hearing this, those people's faces turned dark and they stopped communicating with them. If they continued, they would probably be furious. After seeing this scene, Nangong Chen, who was not far away, also had a much better impression of them. But at this moment, his attention is still on the ring. He had watched Jiang Yinghua fight earlier, and there seemed to be something strange about it, but he couldn't put his finger on it. He hoped Su Li wouldn't get into trouble. As the little incident just now passed, everyone gradually turned their attention back to the ring. I know you, Goddess Su. Before I came here, the Overlord told me not to use my full strength, and to just fight you casually, fearing that it would damage the harmony between our families. But I refused. Can you guess why? Jiang Yinghua has an exquisite face and skin as white as snow. Beneath the precious and graceful moon palace skirt, a pair of long white legs are revealed, which are delicate and smooth and sparkle with an alluring luster. At this moment, she was talking with a playful look on her face, looking at the girl in front of her with great interest. Since the battle had already begun, a barrier sealed the entire arena, which meant that people outside could not hear the voices of those inside. They could only see that the two people seemed to be talking about something. I know you too. You're in the middle stage of the Divine King, ranked second on the heavenly ranking, and it seems you were even scared away by my husband. After hearing this, Su Li did not answer directly, but raised her eyebrows and spoke. After these words were spoken, Jiang Yingyua's calm face was slightly moved, as if she had thought of something. Was it in the astronomy pavilion that day? It was Jiang Che who was scared away by Nangong Chen. Not her. Of course, she was too lazy to explain it clearly. Seeing Jiang Yinghua silent, Su Li was a little surprised. It was actually true, but if the other party was scared away directly, why does he have the courage to stand on this stage today? Su Li felt a little strange, but didn't think much about it. Her silver hair fell quietly on her shoulders, and she was as beautiful as an immortal. Since you refused, you must have your own reasons. In that case, let's fight. I will give my all. Su Li responded to her previous question, her sapphire-like eyes still showing extreme coldness and warmth. Interesting, then let's fight. Let me see what kind of power this Ice Phoenix divine body can exert on you. Jiang Yinghua seemed to admire the other person very much. She nodded slightly, and a rare look of expectation appeared in her beautiful silver eyes. At this moment, the moon behind her is becoming brighter and more dazzling, as if the real moon has descended. The moonlight enveloped Jiang Yinghua's body, making her look extremely ethereal, as if a fairy had fallen into the mortal world. Anyone who saw her would probably be drooling. The next moment, Jiang Yinghua took action. Under the illumination of the bright moon, Jiang Yinghua seemed to have improved in all aspects of her body. She tapped her jade feet lightly, and her figure flashed at a speed so fast that it could not be captured by the naked eye. In almost an instant, he arrived in front of Su Li. Such an astonishing speed also scared many people present. With this speed, even if you say it is as fast as a quasi-saint, he would believe it. Immediately afterwards, Jiang Yingyua's bare hands appeared, and the universe seemed to be contained in her palms. In an instant, terrifying magic power burst out, condensed into a star, and blasted towards the front. These huge stars seemed to be able to destroy the entire world. Their power is so immense that if a strong man in the God King realm were here, he would probably perish on the spot after feeling this pressure. However, it only took a moment for Jiang Yinghua to flash over and release the stars, so fast that it was unimaginable. Moon God Forbidden Codex, first form. At this moment, Jiang Yingyue's beautiful eyes announced mercilessly and saw the big star in front of her going towards suppressing the other party. Boom! However, the next moment, a bright and sharp sword light burst out from the arena. The sword energy was soaring into the sky and actually destroyed the big star directly. Countless void stones were scattered on the ground. At this moment, in the ring, an extreme chill was erupting from Su Li's body, with a tendency to freeze the entire ring. The opponent is fast, and she can use this trick to restrain him. Boom! Before long, the two figures intertwined and collided in the void at an extremely fast speed, and occasionally snowflakes could be seen dancing and starlight falling. The power that erupted was truly earth-shattering and jaw-dropping. If there was no barrier to protect it, the entire space would probably be destroyed directly. Soon, with the loud cry of a phoenix, Su Li's state changed. The mark of the divine phoenix between her eyebrows became brighter and brighter, like an ice and snow empress, emitting a terrifying aura. This was a situation that had never occurred before, even when Su Li fought against Xianhong. Su Li at this moment was even colder than before. That coldness was enough to freeze everything and bring the world to a halt. Even in this state, Su Li was still at a disadvantage when fighting against Jiang Yingyue and was suppressed by the opponent. This made Su Li grit his teeth and frown slightly, as if all his moves were seen through by her. The other party seemed to be teasing her and never took the initiative at any time. This made Su Li even angrier, and he pushed the snow-cutting sword in his hand to its extreme, with silver threads flying between heaven and earth. At this moment, everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. No, I am not mistaken. That evil human woman is actually overpowered by other humans. This woman is no ordinary person. Where did this evil creature come from? This Xiantian realm is truly a place of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Judging from the remaining power of the battle between these two, I'm afraid it's even more terrifying than a peak divine king. Everyone marveled at the extraordinariness of Xiantian realm, and at the same time, they were staring at the starry sky arena, wanting to see who would be the final winner. At this moment, not only the others, but even Li Qixin and the others were a little stunned. Is this the moon goddess? Are you sure? I've never seen her this fierce before. You read that right, it's her. She concealed her strength. If this continues, won't Goddess Su lose? So, she's the real monster. No wonder she was able to escape from that chaotic heart back then. She was even able to get a good score in the first round on her own. Everyone sighed and suddenly understood many things. Chu Yin and Xi Ming also stared at the arena in a daze, and were also greatly shocked. Wan Qing was also watching this scene, his eyes flashing and filled with shock. You know, when the other party escaped from her hands that day, he thought it was just luck, but he didn't expect that this woman was really powerful. Li Qixin's face was a little ashamed at the moment, and he suddenly thought of why the moon goddess rejected him so decisively just now. If you have this strength, why should you be inferior to others? On the ring, the more Jiang Yingyue fought, the more frightened she became. She had never expected that the other party's progress would be so fast that it was unimaginable. Is this the Ice Phoenix divine body? Moreover, the other party seemed to have a great opportunity. The true Phoenix treasure technique he mastered had almost made her feel a strong sense of danger several times. Chapter 294. Comprehension of the Field. Su Li wins. It seems that I have to use some real skills. Jiang Yingyue whispered, her eyes shining like the moon. She held out her bare hands, and countless stars shone brightly. The bright moon behind her became even more sacred. At this moment, it was as if a sea of stars had descended. This starry sky actually resonated with Jiang Yingyue, bursting out with bursts of light in response to her. In this area, Jiang Yingyue was like the empress under the moon. Her whole body was pure white, and she exuded an extreme power. Some people in the audience were so shocked after seeing this scene that they couldn't even speak clearly. This woman's physique actually resonates with this starry sky, opening up a domain. Feel. After hearing this, some geniuses took a deep breath and couldn't even imagine it. Domain is a symbol of the environment changed by one's own physique. A genius with a domain will see an unimaginable increase in strength when fighting within the domain. He could be said to be invincible at the same level. However, since ancient times, only some geniuses with strong physiques will gradually unfold as their cultivation becomes stronger. These geniuses with powerful physiques are extremely amazing in the long river of history. They can be called heroes of the time and are also called invincible by the people of that era. This is also a symbol for distinguishing top-level monsters from ordinary monsters. Even Xian Jie, who is present here, has never opened up a territory so far. However, this is a concept from before the ancient times passed down from the upper realm, and therefore, people have gradually forgotten it. She's only a divine king. How could she have a domain with this physique? Xuanji's pupils shrank slightly, and his calm expression finally changed slightly at this moment. He also has a domain, but it is not something that can be expanded by God King. He has a feeling that he must at least reach a realm above that of a saint before he can gradually expand it. Xuanjie was extremely shocked, and then, as if he had thought of something, his eyes flashed with a gleam, and he quickly shook his head. No, it's this starry sky that provides her with an endless supply of original power, which stimulates her physical constitution. At this moment, after seeing this, Li Qixin and others widened their eyes, not knowing what words to use to express what they saw. Hey, how come he gets stronger the more he fights? Lu Daju was a little speechless. It seems that Goddess Su is going to lose. Xionda also shook his head and said with a complicated expression. Upon hearing this, the others also nodded. The Moon Goddess's domain has been unfolded. Does Goddess Su really have a chance of winning? On the ring, Jiang Yingwei saw the shocked gazes of the world, but she looked calm, as if she was used to it. She looked at Su Li, who was suppressed by the meteorite, and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. It seems that the immature Ice Phoenix divine body can still be defeated. The reason she was able to awaken this area was thanks to her early recovery of her memory. If her previous self was here, she would have lost long ago. Although she was a little unsportsmanlike now, she didn't care. Her original purpose was to bully the master of the Ice Phoenix divine body in this world, and when the time was right, she would surrender. Thinking of this, Jiang Yingwei stretched out her white hands, and from under her sleeves, she created more and more meteorites that fell and hit the girl on the stage. She knew that these moves would not pose any danger to Su Li. At most, they would just cause some trouble. After all, in this area, she is invincible. She can use all kinds of magical powers endlessly. Seeing this scene, everyone shook their heads and were very pessimistic about Su Li. The winner is about to be decided. However, the next moment, a chill erupted from below, and all the meteorites in the sky were frozen in the void. At the same time, snowflakes were flying, and frost was spreading on the ring, as if all things were withering away. This chill was even more bone-chilling and penetrating than the one Su Li had released before, and even colder and frostier. This chill seemed to be able to freeze the depths of a person's soul. At this moment, the bright and sacred moon seemed to be forced to retreat under the frost, and even reached the point of being on equal terms. After seeing this scene, the geniuses present widened their eyes in disbelief. The smile on Jiang Yingwei's lips froze on the spot, and there was a hint of shock in her moon-like eyes. She was not mistaken. At this moment, the woman under the ice was also using her own domain to fight against her bright moon in the sky. The reason she was able to release her domain within the God King was because of her revived memory and the advantages of this starry sky. And the other party, who was at a powerful level, actually released a domain. Did he realize it on the spot? Jiang Yingwei was a little dazed and stood there in a daze, but she had no time to think about it. The next moment, a dazzling sword light came towards her, emitting an extremely dangerous aura. She panicked instantly, raised her slender jade hand, and a star array evolved from her palm, with runes intertwined, trying to block the attack. However, when she saw the sword light disappear the moment it attacked, her pupils suddenly shrank. At the same time, a chill came from her neck. It was the extreme cold from the 9 heavens, which made her soul throb. You lose. A cold and pleasant voice sounded. Jiang Yingwei's expression changed, and then she looked ahead. At some point, the silver-haired woman's sword coldly stopped at her neck. Jiang Yingwei glanced at the ice condensed in the void and seemed to be in a daze. Then, her holy face smiled with a helpless expression and said, I lost. There was no other way. It was a dead end. She accepted her defeat wholeheartedly. She had never imagined that the sword light from the opponent was just an illusion. I didn't expect that at this critical moment, the other party could still comprehend the domain. Even she spent 500 years exploring before she could comprehend the realm, and the other party was only a few years old. The Ice Phoenix divine body in this world is simply terrifying. Jiang Yingwei shook her head and stopped thinking about it. Her expression returned to its usual cold and calm look, and then she turned and left the arena. Seeing this, the Star Envoy announced calmly, Xiantian territory, Su Li wins. At this moment, if someone observed carefully, they would be able to see the horror in his eyes. Unexpectedly, even the Star Envoy did not react to this result. After he finished speaking, everyone slowly came back to their senses, their eyes still filled with disbelief. What happened? This means I won. Someone exclaimed that the reversal of the battle happened in just a moment, and many people didn't even see it clearly before it ended. But soon, an equally beautiful voice sounded. It's the domain. At the last moment, Su Li comprehended the domain, and thus condensed ice crystals in the void, projecting several sword shadows, turning the situation around. Hu Yaoyao said softly. Even she looked at Su Li with a serious expression at this moment. She was not as relaxed as before. Obviously, in her eyes, the other party has become an opponent who can pose a great threat to her. After hearing Hu Yaoyao's explanation, everyone suddenly understood, but then they were even more shocked. She can comprehend the domain in a short period of time, and even use the ice crystals to reflect the sword light to confuse the opponent. This woman is too evil. At this moment, everyone secretly swallowed their saliva and looked at the icy figure standing on the stage with complete awe. In their hearts, they already regarded the other party as the most qualified evildoer, no doubt about it. They also understood more and more why the boy gave so many points to the other party in the first round of trials. If it were them, they would give the same points or even more. This is definitely a great support. With her around, what else do we need to struggle for? However, some people were also very contemptuous after learning the intention behind this. They never thought that a dignified man of 9 feet would have to rely on a woman. At this moment, in their hearts, Nangong Chen has already been labeled as a gigolo. I just wonder what a wonderful expression Nangong Chen would have if he knew about this. On the ring, Su Li retracted Zhang Shui, and 3,000 silver threads fell on her shoulders. Her exquisite and beautiful face showed a hint of fatigue. At this moment, her fairy-like snow skirt was also a little disheveled. It was obvious that she was extremely exhausted in this battle. Her face was very pale, and she had a kind of sickly beauty. The next moment, her figure was shaky and seemed about to fall to the ground. When everyone saw this, their pupils shrank. However, in an instant, before everyone could even react, a figure in white landed in the center of the ring. The man had a tall and straight body, was surrounded by fairy light, and had an extraordinary handsome face. Who else could this man be but Nangong Chen? Nangong Chen supported Su Li, and the next moment, he picked up the beauty in front of him in front of everyone. His figure flashed and disappeared in the ring. Su Li first felt as if someone was hugging her. Her delicate body trembled, and she wanted to struggle. But I was so tired that I could barely open my eyes. I could only vaguely see the outline of the person in front of me. It seemed to be Nangong Chen. Only then did she feel relieved. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, and she fell asleep peacefully with the last thought in her mind. No wonder it's so comfortable. At the same time, Nangong Chen looked at the beauty in his arms, who was a little dishonest even in her sleep, and felt helpless. He also realized that the other party might have misunderstood something and was about to explain. Before he could say anything, he saw that Su Li had a calm expression and had fallen into a deep sleep, with her hands still hanging around his neck, and her breathing was very steady. The other party even buried his head in his chest, as if he could sleep better this way. Seeing this, Nangong Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly. It seems that he has completely let down his guard against me. Thinking of the first time they met, Su Li killed him with a sword. Of course, if it weren't for the last resort, in order to activate his golden finger, he would not threaten the other party. At that time, the other party put the sword on his neck. To be honest, he really regretted it. He regretted that he was really afraid that the other party was a lunatic and would kill him without mercy. Fortunately, he made the right bet. My first impression of Su Li was also formed at that time. She was as beautiful as a fairy, but her temper was as cold as ice. She had a sour face all day long. At that time, he was a little curious about what it would be like if the other party was normal, but fortunately, he saw it now. Although the two were instigated in a marriage by the system, after so much time has passed, they have developed real feelings for each other. Moreover, every time he saw Su Li, he had some different emotions, which were very complicated, and he himself couldn't figure out. Forget it. It should just be an illusion. I'd better not think about it anymore. Nangong Chen shook his head and stopped thinking about it. At this moment, Li Qixin and others on the other side wanted to comfort Yueshin when they saw her coming back, but after thinking for a long time, they didn't know what to say. Does it matter? The reason goddess, Su Wan, was entirely due to her imitation of your domain. Or maybe it's because she's young. We know you let her go on purpose. I'm afraid that if they say these words, the other party will chop them to death. However, when the moon goddess passed by them, there seemed to be no change in her expression, and she walked by very calmly. Then one of them stopped not far away, which made everyone stare in surprise. Seeing this, they could only smile helplessly and take back what they wanted to say. After all, even they didn't expect that Su Li would win in the end. They were so shocked that they were speechless for a long time. At this moment, in the outside world, after seeing the moon goddess defeated by the goddess Su, the whole audience was in an uproar. It's really exciting. It really makes my blood boil. I didn't expect that under such circumstances, goddess Su could still kill him. Goddess Su, you are our god. But the moon goddess is truly powerful. Who would have thought that she could hide so deeply? If she hadn't met Su Li, she would have probably been able to enter the top 5 if she had met someone else. What a pity. Yes, but everyone is happy if Goddess Su wins. After all, with Goddess Su's incredible talent, it would be a real shame if she didn't win. Goddess Su held back at the last moment, which means there won't be any deep hatred between the two after this battle. This is a good thing. I didn't expect that the most exciting battle was not the one between Hu Yaoyao and Fozi, but the battle between these two women. Everyone was filled with emotion. They had never expected that this battle would actually produce two monsters. At the same time, this also made countless female cultivators in Xiantian realm regard these two people as their idols after this battle, and their eyes were very passionate. Of course, there were also some people who noticed the scene where Goddess Su was about to fall after the final victory, and Nangong Chen arrived in an instant. This also made them sigh at the relationship between the two. But soon, after a brief cheer, everyone turned their attention back to the projection, for no other reason than that the final battle of the day was about to begin. The sea monster Hai Wuhan fights against the one with double pupils. Chapter 295 Misunderstanding. Hai Wuhan is furious. At this moment, in the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty, after everyone saw Su Li beat Jiang Yingwei and entered the top 5, the entire Divine Dynasty was in an uproar. Countless people cheered in the streets and sang praises to the goddess. Inside the palace, there was a chorus of good comments, and all the ministers had extremely fiery eyes. Nangong Zhan's face was also flushed with light in his eyes, and he could not hide the pride in his heart. He was so satisfied with his daughter-in-law. Even he had not expected that Su Li would reach this point. As for Su Ming, he looked extremely happy. He kept stroking his beard, and the smile on the corner of his mouth could not be suppressed. The more outstanding your daughter is, the more extraordinary her status will be in the future, not only for the entire Su family, but also for the entire Divine Dynasty. Seeing this, everyone offered their congratulations, and Su Ming responded to them one by one with a smile. But soon, everyone's attention was attracted by the projection in the void. Some people saw the scene in front of them and said in a lost voice, their eyes widened. Does the Crown Prince really want to fight like this? Return to the battlefield of heaven and earth. With the end of the previous battle, the Star Envoy also announced the final battle of the day between Nangong Chen from Xintian Domain and Hai Wuhan, the Pride of the Sea Domain. After hearing this, all the geniuses looked over, as if they had thought of something, and smiled meaningfully. They knew that Hai Wuhan had mocked Xuantianyu before, which angered the god of killing. It can be said that the tension between the two was already high before they even started fighting. This was going to be a lot to watch. Ha ha ha. Someone saw Hai Wuhan walking onto the stage with a very dark face and laughed loudly. After all, they still remembered Hai Wuhan's arrogance clearly, but this time, they had kicked a tough guy. At this moment, everyone was smiling and talking. Although this killer god's strength is not top-notch, he should have no problem dealing with Hai Wuhan. I think so too. If Hai Wuhan could win, he would have mocked me by now. Why would he remain silent? I guess he also expected that he would lose. Then, someone suggested that they bet on how many moves the fight between the two would take. I bet the god of killing can end this battle within 10 moves. Within 10 moves, you think too highly of him. Although he can defeat Hai Wuhan is not so easily defeated. After all, he is the strongest demon that has appeared in the sea area in recent years, and even in the entire history. I think it should be within 100 moves. I also think that within 100 moves, this Hai Wuhan is much stronger than those defeated by the previous god of killing. He is completely on a different level. He is even stronger than Bai Long in the first battle. He will definitely be able to hold out for quite some time. After hearing what these people said, the others nodded in agreement. They thought about it carefully, and it seemed to be true as they said. Among the 100 moves, it should be the most realistic and has the highest probability. Seeing this, the others also bet that the battle would end within 100 moves. As for the first 5 moves, or an instant kill, they had never thought about it at all. It's impossible for Hai Wuhan to be killed instantly. That's absolutely impossible. Thinking of this, the smiles on their faces widened, and they all expressed confidence in the outcome of this match. In the center of the ring, Hai Wuhan was already in position. His face was a little gloomy, his eyes flickered, and no one knew what he was thinking. After all, that kid is only at the peak of the powerful. He can't crush me, who is in the late stage of the God King. If I use the body of the sea god, I still have a great chance of winning. That's right, he also concealed something. In the previous battles, he had never used his physique, which was one of the top 10 physiques ever developed by the Sea Clan. The body of the Poseidon. It was the original constitution of the Sea Emperor, the strongest of the ancient sea race. It was said that the Sea Emperor used this constitution to suppress other powerful creatures in the sea, including many of the top 100 races. Those races are so powerful that if they were placed in the Xiantian realm, they would probably cause a bloody storm. Even the ancient creatures were so powerful that not even the ancient humans could resist them. Even such an existence was suppressed by the Sea Emperor. One can imagine how powerful this physique was. If it were in the deep sea, it would be almost invincible. Thinking of his biggest hidden trump card, Hai Wuhan felt relieved. His expression gradually relaxed, and he glanced at the opposite side. There was no one on the other side of the ring. Seeing this, Hai Wuhan gritted his teeth and glanced in the direction of Xiantian realm. He saw a barrier standing there, and Nangong Chen and Su Li had disappeared. He was suddenly enlightened, and his eyes became even colder. Damn it, even at this hour, he's still lusting after beautiful women. Hai Wuhan thought to himself, feeling more and more contemptuous of Nangong Chen. Setting up a concealing barrier, isn't that just doing those things? Otherwise, who would set up a formation here? Humph, a person who only has talent but is greedy for pleasure is destined to go nowhere. Hai Wuhan shook his head and thought with disdain. At the same time, everyone noticed that Nangong Chen seemed to be taking a long time to come up, and their expressions changed slightly. Could it be that he was delayed for some reason? Why hasn't he come up yet? Someone whispered, eyes flickering. I also think that you can't say that the god of killing is afraid. After all, he killed so many people before without blinking an eye. A demon in gray clothes nodded and agreed. But soon, a pig demon seemed to have discovered something, looked towards Xiantian territory, and smiled evilly. No. Didn't you notice? That god of death set up a concealment formation, hiding both the woman and himself, and making them disappear here. Two lonely men and women, in this secret space. What do you think they are doing? As soon as these words were spoken, the eyes of the geniuses widened, and then they looked in the direction the pig demon said, and indeed found that Nangong Chen and Su Li had disappeared. They looked surprised and said, "Oh," with a hint of deep meaning, their eyes sparkling with brilliance, revealing a meaning that every man could understand. This god of killing is really impatient. Someone sighed leisurely. On Li Qixin's side, he noticed that Nangong Chen and Su Li were missing, and it seemed that a concealment formation had been set up. Everyone's faces turned strange. Among them, only Chu Yin and Xi Meng had red faces and unstable breathing, and they were deeply shocked in their hearts. Are they doing those things? There are so many people here. Oh my god. Moreover, the goddess Su had just finished a battle, and now she started another battle. This is too fast. There's no time to breathe. As they thought about it, their faces became even redder, making it almost impossible to tell whether they were excited or afraid. Hiss! Overlord, what should we do? It's the turn of the one with double pupils, but he still hasn't come out. Do we really have to disturb him? Lu Zhu said in a low voice, with a special smile on his lips, and his hands were still gesturing wildly. After hearing this, Li Qixin also looked conflicted. He also knew that this was a critical period for Brother Nangong. If you disturb the other person, according to what others have said, being interrupted during sex can leave sequelae. The consequences are extremely serious, and this is a matter of face for a man throughout his life. Of course, this round of battle is related to the top 5 rankings, and is also extremely important. What should he do? Li Qixin's brows were furrowed to the point where they couldn't be furrowed any further. And the other side, be obedient, it's really my turn. In a secret space that they had opened up, Nangong Chen looked helpless as he looked at the beautiful silver-haired girl in front of him who was wrapped around his body like an octopus. At this moment, Su Li was sleeping soundly, with the corners of her mouth slightly raised from time to time, exposing everything about herself to the other person without any defense. Her skin was snow white, and even a hint of spring could be seen. No, Su Li moaned. She was a little dazed in her sleep and didn't know what the other person was saying. She could only vaguely sense that the other person wanted to leave her. Then, a trace of panic appeared on the girl's beautiful and crystal-clear face, like a frightened little animal. She even hugged Nangong Chen even tighter, not wanting him to leave. Well, feeling the softness coming from his body, Nangong Chen sighed and felt a little soft-hearted. He couldn't wake her up in this state. After all, Su Li had just consumed so much energy. If he was awakened, it would be more trouble than gain. Fortunately, he had just set up a secret barrier here. If the other party was seen like this, it would not be good. Give me half an incense stick of time, okay? I'll be back soon. Helplessly, Nangong Chen continued speaking, and his words seemed a little crazy. After Su Li heard this voice, her eyebrows and eyelashes trembled slightly, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly. But it was only for a moment, and it was almost impossible to tell. Soon, the beauty in his arms seemed to have compromised, and the strength in her hands decreased a lot. Taking this opportunity, Nangong Chen also waved his hand. The next moment, a white and soft mattress appeared in front of him. He gently placed Su Li on it. The next moment, Su Li's beautiful face and dark eyebrows were slightly wrinkled, and she seemed a little uncomfortable. Her slender white arms even wanted to reach out to grab him, and she moaned softly. Nangong Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect the other party to be so clingy after falling asleep. But he had to say, he looked quite cute. Nangong Chen glanced at the beauty on the bed with a smile in his eyes, then uttered 2 words and turned away. Wait for me. When the sound of footsteps completely faded away, Suli opened her beautiful eyes and a smile appeared on her pretty face. Not long after, everyone saw Nangong Chen coming out, and everyone had a strange look in their eyes. No way so fast. Hu Yaoyao's pair of snow-white fox ears trembled slightly. She stared at Nangong Chen in a daze, her charming face somewhat shocked. The man she liked is not good enough. Although she felt sad when she saw him getting together with another woman, she could accept it. However, she found it difficult to accept that the other party had been together for such a short time. It's okay. If we are together in the future, we must ask our father to bring the Yuanyang medicine from the National Treasury. We will definitely be able to solve it. Hu Yaoyao comforted herself that this was related to her happiness for the rest of her life. On the other side in Xintian territory, Shimeng and Chu Yan's expressions became even more interesting after seeing Nangong Chen come out the next second. No one knew what they were thinking. In the distance, many people saw this and whispered with regretful expressions on their faces. So fast, could it be that the god of killing is incapable? I didn't expect that. Doesn't he look quite young? Could it be that she's been so drunk on music all day that she's become weak? What a pity for that woman. As Nangong Chen walked over, he was stunned by the strange looks from Xiongda and others, as well as the rumors from some people. Who were they talking about? But soon, he had the answer. When he arrived on the stage, Nangong Chen quickly felt a cold gaze coming towards him, and his eyebrows raised slightly. Hai Wuhan, who was standing opposite him, had cold eyes. After seeing him looking at him, he snorted coldly. I never thought that you humans are so absurd and promiscuous. I don't know how you came to this immortal treasure. You are a disgrace to the geniuses of the 10 realms like us. For him, fighting with such a person would simply dirty his hands. But fortunately, the opponent doesn't know that he has the body of the Sea King. The enemy knows while I do, so the advantage is on my side. Thinking of this, Hai Wuhan's face became more confident. On the other side, Nangong Chen looked a little strange after hearing what he said, but soon he understood. It turned out that I was misunderstood. However, he didn't intend to explain. I've lost face for you. Have you forgotten what I said to you when we were crossing the sea? Nangong Chen shook his head and said calmly. It would have been fine if he hadn't said this, but once he did, the smiles on the faces of many geniuses in the audience froze. How could they be attacked just for watching a show? After hearing this, Hai Wuhan was unable to react for a moment and subconsciously said uncertainly, rubbish. He remembered that the other party had said this at the beginning. The boy is teachable and has some self-awareness. Nangong Chen showed a look of relief, but then changed the subject and said coldly, so, a piece of trash like you dares to call yourself the pride of the 10 realms? You. After Hai Wuhan reacted, his face suddenly changed, turning blue and purple, and his eyes were filled with anger. Okay, this kid, if I don't smash his mouth, I will no longer be named Hai. However, after hearing this, the people in the audience couldn't help but hold back their laughter. It turned out that the sadness between people could not be shared. When someone's smile disappears, you can see if it has moved to someone else's face. After hearing these voices, Hai Wuhan became even angrier, and the anger in his eyes almost burst out. Chapter 296 The Sword Comes. Soon, the Star Envoy saw that the time was right and announced the start of the battle. After hearing this, Hai Wuhan calmed down and his expression gradually relaxed. Then he pushed out his hands, and a huge raging sea surged from the void. He stood in midair, and behind him was the endless sea surging. The waves occasionally collided and made a terrifying roar, like thunder intertwined in the sky. Such power made the pupils of many people present shrink. They could feel that this sea was not simple and terrifying, and it had a great origin. At this moment, Hai Wuhan was like the god of the sea, with his blue hair flying and waves intertwined around him. With every move he made, he seemed to have the power to destroy the world and suppress everything. I never thought that the Sea Emperor's body that I hid would eventually be used on you. You, a human, should feel honored for this. Hai Wuhan scolded coldly, his face full of arrogance. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of everyone present changed, as if they had heard something extremely terrifying. Sea King body? They didn't hear it wrong. When talking about the sea, we have to mention the incomparably amazing sea warrior tens of thousands of years ago. His name was the Sea Emperor, that race that suppressed an area, even if it came to the 3,000 Dao states and above the 9 heavens, was able to establish its own faction, and among all the races in the heavens, it forced the Sea Clan to the forefront. It can be said that this man is very legendary. Even his physique is dubbed as the limbs of the Sea King. And at this moment, Hai Wuhin in front of them actually had the same monstrous physique as the legendary one. The body of the Sea Emperor. Command the sea and kill everything. At this moment, many people looked frightened and shook their heads at Nangong Chen. I'm afraid that what they said before about defeating the opponent within 100 moves is unlikely. According to this momentum, it will take at least a considerable amount of time to end the battle. However, there were also some people who hesitated for a long time after seeing it, and finally chose to change their minds and support Hai Wuhin. You should have told me earlier that you have the body of a Sea King. Sure enough, this monster, which is hailed as the strongest monster in the sea for 10,000 years, is indeed quite capable. The geniuses thought secretly in their hearts and looked forward to the next trend. Soon, they set their sights on Nangong Chen. On the stage, Nangong Chen remained unmoved, his white robe rustling, his double pupils looking around disdainfully, his black hair dancing, like a supreme young man of his generation. However, just when everyone thought he would use that terrifying thunder method, or his eyes, or even the strength of his body, an extremely powerful sword intent erupted. In the center of the arena, Nangong Chen had an indifferent expression, his eyes flashing like cold lightning. The next moment, countless immortal swords soared into the sky, circling in the void, making clanging sword sounds. Everyone was frightened, their eyes fixed in disbelief. These swords are actually of a quality above that of holy weapons. As the most talented among the talented, they naturally have extraordinary eyesight and can tell the quality of these swords. Obviously, they're all the best among the best. At this moment, Nangong Chen stepped on the void, and 300 immortal swords followed closely behind him, flashing sharp cold light, as if a generation of sword immortal was born. The sword aura emitted by these swords could even tear the void apart with ease, causing everyone's pupils to shrink suddenly when they saw it. He can't possibly be controlling these hundreds of swords, someone said in disbelief. What was most shocking was the opponent's sword intent. You have to know that Nangong Chen had never been seen using it before. This kind of sword intent is at least at the beginning of great success. Without decades of hard training, it is absolutely impossible to achieve it. At this moment, Wu Jian, who was also a sword cultivator, spoke with a look of shock. After hearing this, Li Qixin was stunned for a moment, and then his expression became complicated as he said, "Decades, do you know his age?" "I don't know. 18. After he finished speaking, Wu Jian stood there in a daze. His heart was greatly shocked. Even though he had only learned the sword skills from the entry level to the minor success in the past few decades, he had already become what people called a genius. But now Li Qixin told him that the person with double pupils was only 18 years old. For a moment, his breathing became a little rapid and his eyes were full of disbelief. Not only him, but even Wang Teng and others were shocked after seeing it. Who would have thought that Nangong Chen was actually a sword cultivator? However, the most shocked person at this moment was Hai Wuhin on the opposite side of the ring. He stood on the waves, feeling the sword intent that was heading straight for his soul, his expression changing wildly. He never expected that this kid could actually use a sword. It turns out that I was hiding something, and the other party was also hiding something. Great, Hai Wuhin thought to himself, then revealed a stern look and gritted his teeth. I just don't believe you can really control these 300 swords. The next moment, his eyes flashed with a terrifying murderous intent, like the churning Dead Sea. He pushed out with both hands, and the aura around him continued to surge. At this moment, the deep sea that swept across the sky also erupted with terrifying power, hanging high above the dome, like an endless giant wall, covering the sky and the sun, with the momentum to destroy all life. Poseidon's wrath, he shouted loudly, and then the boundless sea came down in an instant. With this move, even a powerful god king would be reduced to ashes. Sword! At the same time, a cold voice sounded, carrying an extreme murderous intent, like an evil ghost locking the soul, making people sweat coldly. When the other party insulted Zuanianyu and Xiao Li and others earlier, he was destined to die today. Nangong Chen's brows were cold, his eyes were shining, and his sword finger fell. In an instant, countless immortal swords flew out of the sky and exploded from behind. 300 immortal swords rushed towards the boundless waves like a rain of swords. At this moment, the sword light was bright, like stars descending to the earth, illuminating the world. Swish! The terrifying waves that stood like a high wall were instantly torn open by the star-studded sword light. The sword's power remained undiminished as it rushed towards Hai Wuhin. Hai Wuhin was panicked, completely panicked. He could feel such a piercing edge, which seemed to be able to tear his body apart easily and end his life. I want to vote. At this moment, Hai Wuhin shouted loudly, his pupils trembled, and his whole body was shaking. If he was afraid, he shouldn't have provoked this god of death. However, before he could finish his words, the sword light that came towards him instantly swallowed Hai Wuhan, leaving only a pool of blood scattered on the ring. The monster of the sea, Hai Wuhan, falls. At this moment, everyone was stunned when they saw this scene and couldn't help swallowing their saliva. Defeated in one move? No, this is too fast. It happened in just a split second after the battle started. Even Hai Wuhan was killed on the spot before he could even finish shouting his surrender, leaving neither his soul nor his body behind. Li Qixin and others widened their eyes. The impact of the scene was no less than when Su Li killed Jiang Yingyue earlier, and it also brought great shock. It has to be said that only instant kills can bring the most direct difference to people, and those seated players were also extremely moved. A hint of surprise flashed across Xuanzhe's eyes, but he quickly regained his composure and shook his head. He could tell that even without using this sword technique, the opponent would probably die at the hands of this kid. However, this kid was really arrogant, actually exposing his trump card like this. Obviously, he had already classified this extremely lethal sword technique as the opponent's trump card, because the 10,000 Swords Immortal technique was really too terrifying. If it were him, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to handle it easily. Fortunately, he already knew the opponent's trump card. If he fought with him in the future, this guy would have no advantage. Everything about him was deeply understood by him. As for Xian Hong, who was standing aside, his eyes had already widened and he was shocked beyond recognition. He had never imagined that this kid could be so powerful. If he were to take it, he would probably die from this sword. Thinking of this, he felt a little scared, but also a little relieved. He was relieved that he didn't draw Nangong Chen, but the woman. Otherwise, it would have been dangerous. Xian Xiangling, whose beautiful eyes were filled with divinity, looked solemn after seeing this sword. When the Buddhist disciple was still recovering from his injuries, he was also dumbfounded when he saw this attack, and then his expression gradually became complicated. This sword is very powerful. He spoke slowly. Even his indestructible body might not be able to withstand it. As expected, those who made it into the top 5 were all monsters among monsters. He sighed to himself, then sighed. And Hu Yao Yao from the demon realm also smiled after reading it, with a hint of solemnity in her beautiful eyes, and chuckled. If I were to meet you, sir, I'd probably have to use all my strength. Wan Xin, who was in the corner, had a flickering look in his eyes and a look of deep fear on his face. He said, "This boy must not be allowed to stay." On top of the mastery of formations and sword skills, there are also these eyes. All these are tantamount to declaring to him, "When I grow up, I will kill all of you in the Blood God sect." It's hard to imagine what he will become when he grows up. At this moment, his plan also changed. He decided to attack and kill the opponent with all his strength, and no longer care about anything else. He has clearly realized the evilness of Nangong Chen. And in the entire arena, no one dared to underestimate this young man from Xintian Domain. Even though he was only at the peak of the powerful level, this sword made countless people tremble with fear. The previous statements that Nangong Chen could only rely on Su Li were completely refuted, and those geniuses who had previously believed that the battle would end within 100 moves were now filled with shame. Seeing this, the star envoy on the stage also announced calmly, "Xintian territory, Nangong Chen wins." After hearing this, Nangong Chen put away the 300 immortal swords and then walked away into the air at an extremely fast speed, as if he had something urgent to do. When Nangong Chen disappeared, everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. They didn't know why they were so nervous, but when they saw this killing god, they felt an inexplicable sense of oppression. After a long time, someone slowly raised a question. "By the way, those extraordinary swords just now, are all his?" As soon as these words came out, everyone's faces changed. Only then did they realize why there were so many swords just now. Even they only had 1 or 2 holy weapons, but Nangong Chen actually had 300. If this happened in the outside world, it would definitely cause a bloody storm. Even if all the Tianjiao clans present here were combined, there wouldn't be this much. Of course, the most shocked among them was Lu Dezhu. As the young master of Tianbao Pavilion, he knew clearly the value of these swords. It was no exaggeration to say that they were priceless and rich enough to rival a country. Even the top powers in Xintian territory combined don't have so many saint soldiers. Alas, it will be troublesome after we get out. He sighed, his eyes filled with worry. Among these 300 swords, there are some immortal weapons, but most of them are saint weapons. But even so, they are terrifying enough. Saint soldiers are something that even saints covet, let alone 300 of them. As for Li Qixin and the others standing by, they were almost speechless and didn't react for a long time. After a while, Li Qixin spoke slowly. "Brother Nangong, this is against the will of heaven. He really couldn't think of any words to describe it. He felt that no matter what he said, he couldn't describe the feeling of the other party being invincible. After hearing this, the others nodded one after another. At this moment, in the outside world, after seeing Nangong Chen display such a sword move, the whole audience fell silent. After a long while, someone finally spoke with a hint of disbelief. I remember that person with double pupils seemed to have just started learning swordsmanship in the first round. Those geniuses didn't know that they had seen it clearly back then. Not to mention 18 years of sword training. Even a few months hadn't been enough to reach this point. Could it be that he has actually always been a swordsman, but he just concealed it at the time? Some people also speculated. Everyone shook their heads. They were puzzled. The speed of progress of the person with double pupils in those few days was really incredible, so fast that it was a little unbelievable. Similarly, the opponent looked like he had just learned sword skills, and there were indeed no flaws to be seen. Soon, everyone stopped dwelling on this issue and sighed. Sure enough, the person with double pupils is still refreshing our cognition. Who would have thought that a formation master at the entry level could also practice swordsmanship? Yeah, that move just now was so cool. It directly killed the extremely arrogant Hai Wuan. It was so satisfying to watch, so cool. I'm afraid Hai Wu never dreamed that he, the dignified Sea Emperor, would be killed directly. Ha ha ha. However, some people thought of something and said in shock. But then again, doesn't that mean 2 people from our Xintian territory have made it into the top 5? These 2 people even came from eastern Shenzhou. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone looked a little ashamed. They regarded themselves as the strongest state in the Xintian realm, with outstanding people and beautiful scenery, and the geniuses among them were as numerous as crucian carp crossing the river. Now it seems that there are geniuses, as you said, but they do exist, but they just go up there to serve as experienced babies for others. On the contrary, the previously unfavored person with double pupils and the goddess Su have already shined brightly in the Immortal Collection, using their talents to break the world's perception step by step. After this Immortal Collection is over, I think I should go and visit Eastern Divine Continent. I want to see what kind of place can breed such a monster. An old man with white hair, a casual cultivator, flew on a sword and spoke slowly. His aura was as deep as the ocean, and he was obviously a strong man. Me too. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone echoed them, their faces full of enthusiasm, wanting to go to the distant east to take a look. Chapter 297. Hidden Family, Changes in Pattern. Little do people know that after the end of the future immortal treasure, there will be a wave heading to eastern Shenzhou, which will be far more popular and stronger than the current one. And the person who set off this wave is destined to be Nangong Chen. In the void, when Zhao Lei saw the miracle of 10,000 swords becoming one, his eyes widened. He was speechless for a long time and fell into great shock. If he saw it correctly, the move used by the man with double pupils just now was the legendary 10,000 swords immortal technique. This sword technique was created by a supreme sword master above the 9 heavens. It is said to be incredibly powerful, capable of controlling hundreds of thousands of swords in combat, and its power increases with the number of swords used. It was this sword technique that was said in the legend and had never been seen before, but he actually saw it today. How could this not make him excited and shocked? However, that kid's swordsmanship seemed to have only achieved minor success in the previous month, but a month later, it had reached major success. He was even vaguely showing signs of reaching perfection. Soon, Zhao Lei seemed to remember something. His eyes gleamed, and he murmured, reaching the grand mastery of swordsmanship in a month. What did that even mean? Even among sword cultivators, some white-haired elders would spend their entire lives stuck at the entry level, never reaching the threshold of grand mastery. The other party, who was only in his teens, only took a month. It's so terrifying. Even Zhao Lei, who had seen many evildoers, couldn't help but sigh at this moment. Of course, if Zhao Lei knew that Nangong Chen had only been practicing the 10,000 swords immortal technique for a few days, he would probably be shocked. On the side, those powerful people were also sighing when they saw that all their descendants had been eliminated and there was no one left. We were so wrong. We never imagined that the 2 least promising people in this class would actually make it into the top 5. Yeah, who would have thought that those 2 geniuses from East Shenzhou would rise from the top 10 on the heavenly ranking to the top 5 of the 10 regions? Someone else seemed to have discovered something and echoed. The key is that these 2 people are from the same force. It is said that they are from a new dynasty called Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Oh, Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. What kind of power is that? After hearing this, Wang Qi, the head of the Wang family, had a glint of doubt in his eyes. In fact, he was still quite puzzled about the life stories behind the man with double pupils and the goddess Su. Of course, the same was true for everyone else present. These old monsters who never leave the mountains rarely pay attention to the replacement of the old with the new and changes in the situation outside. They will only come out when something important happens in the Xiantian realm, such as this immortal treasure. After hearing this, the old man also showed a strange expression and said in surprise, "Have you really never heard of the Tianyuan divine dynasty?" Seeing them shaking their heads with puzzled expressions, the red-haired old man began to explain with a strange look in his eyes. "I don't know the specifics either. I only know that the power behind that person with double pupils seems to be called Tianyuan Mansion, a first-rate dynasty in eastern Shenzhou." When these words came out, everyone's eyes were a little stunned, and then someone said with an incredible look on his face, "How is this possible? The power behind the person with double pupils actually relies on a first-rate power?" At this moment, people from Chiling Gate, Astronomical Holy Land, Tianbao Pavilion, Wang family, and other forces all had expressions of doubt on their faces. It was obvious that they did not believe it. Whether it was the ghost-faced woman who was suspected to be above a saint, as previously rumored, who took action outside the Nine Heavens secret realm, or the saintly protector behind the man with double pupils seen that day. All these signs suggest that the situation behind the other party cannot be that simple. "Hey, I haven't finished talking yet. Why are you so anxious?" After hearing this, the red-haired old man rolled his eyes at them and continued. "Not long after, that first-rate dynasty suddenly fell into decline for unknown reasons. Even its princes and princesses were seen being exiled to the border. It was truly a miserable existence. However, in its place, a new dynasty was born in that land, namely the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Tianyuan Prefecture, Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. The relationship between the two, I believe you should be able to guess why that first-class dynasty collapsed overnight." He spoke in a gloomy tone, glancing at everyone. "You mean that first-class dynasty was destroyed because it offended the Tianyuan Mansion?" A powerful man took a deep breath and spoke. After hearing this, the red-haired old man smiled, but said nothing. Seeing the other party's expression, everyone now understood what was going on and spoke out. "Hiss. So, this Tianyuan Mansion has a very unusual origin. It possesses such strength, yet it hides itself in a small dynasty and only came to prominence this year. You're talking nonsense. How can a force that can produce a person with double pupils and goddess be simple? Maybe it's some ancient hidden family." "An ancient hidden family? It's really possible. Didn't someone from the Tianji Pavilion once rumor that a hidden family would appear in this world?" "A hidden family?" When everyone heard the words hidden family, their faces changed a little, as if they remembered something very scary. In Xiantian territory, on the surface, these top forces are the overlords, but in fact, the real overlord is the immortal family that is hiding in an unknown place and recuperating. According to legend, the original bodies of these hidden families were driven to the Xiantian realm by the upper realm for unknown reasons, and some families even have close ties with the Taoist traditions of the upper realm. For example, tens of millions of years ago, there was a genius named Jun Tianchen who was born from hidden family. As soon as he was born, he said that he would suppress all the geniuses of the time one by one to prove his invincibility. As soon as these words were spoken, an uproar broke out in the entire Xiantian realm. At first, many cultivators expressed disdain for this, thinking that it was just some country bumpkin hiding in the mountains who was speaking nonsense. Afterwards, these cultivators were slapped in the face. No one had expected that Jun Tianchen would travel north from the southernmost land and defeat all the geniuses along the way, including some top forces. Their descendants were all defeated by Jun Tianchen. Even the former number one on the heavenly ranking was badly defeated by the opponent and had almost no ability to fight back. It can be said that it was a crushing defeat. Jun Tianchen himself is extremely arrogant. It can almost be said that he not only shows no mercy, but also beats his opponents until they have broken their hands and feet, or even beat them to death. This is normal for him. However, that was not all. He also mocked the other party and insulted the entire Xiantian realm and several major divine states as waste. At that time, this caused dissatisfaction among many forces. Despite this, he still returned intact, without even suffering any damage. The reason was simple. His protector was incredibly powerful, said to be above a saint. He killed many powerful people who wanted to take action on the spot, making everyone dare not have any thoughts anymore. Those forces were feeling aggrieved, but they had no other options and dared not act rashly. No one knew how powerful the existence behind the other party was. The only thing everyone knew was that Jun Tianchen claimed to be the heir of a hidden family. Of course, there were also forces that refused to give up and follow the other side, wanted to find out the other side's family and wipe them out in one fell swoop. However, that force soon disappeared without a trace, and it was said that it was directly wiped out. After this incident, the 4 words hidden family gradually came into everyone's sight. Those forces were extremely afraid and no longer dared to mention revenge, believing that the hidden family was a more powerful existence. From then on, every 1,000 years, a descendant of a self-proclaimed hidden family would be born and sweep across the entire Tianyuan realm and several continents. These monsters all have vigorous blood and extraordinary talents. They are several times stronger than the normal geniuses in Tianyuan realm. Since ancient times, no one has been able to stop them, and no one has ever heard of anyone who can defeat this hidden heir. The evildoers of this hidden family haunted the hearts of all the geniuses of the Tianyuan realm like nightmares for the next 1,000 years. These evildoers were also known as the symbol of invincibility. This is why they were so excited when they heard about the hidden family. So, it's possible that they're from a hidden family. I didn't expect their background to be so powerful. Wang Qi secretly took a deep breath and spoke out. The others also nodded, their eyes showing deep fear. All these signs indicated that the other party was most likely from a hidden family. Didn't the meeting we held earlier at the Chu family offend them? The female elder of the astronomical Holy Land seemed to remember something and said in panic. She still remembered that neither Nangong Chen nor Su Li voted for her, believing that she would not achieve anything after entering. When an elder of the Chu family who was present heard this, his face changed drastically. If the other party really investigated, it would be completely related to their Chu family. If Nangong Chen was present, he would definitely recognize that the other person was Chu Yan's protector outside the Nine Heavens secret realm that day, the quasi-saint Chu Yan. Chu Yan's eyes flashed. He didn't expect that the other party's background was so powerful. No, we have to inform the clan leaders as soon as possible. After hearing this, Zhao Lei guessed something. He snorted coldly and said disdainfully, I've already said it before, your bullshit seed plan is completely useless. A true monster can advance in the immortal treasures even without relying on others. It's a good thing you didn't vote for these two, otherwise you would have harmed them. Your disciples are all like trash, and they would only be a burden if you voted for them. Zhao Lei cursed without mercy. He had long been fed up with his crappy seed plan. A true genius should rely on himself, grow after fighting, and be tempered in danger. That kind of mentality and the talent to match it are called a genius. After hearing this, everyone's faces turned pale. This statement is indeed true, but it is too rough. However, thinking of the other party's identity and cultivation, they did not care too much and endured it. You're right. If we vote for them, we'll really be harming them. At this moment, the female elder of the astronomical Holy Land smiled bitterly. This matter most likely will not offend the other party. If the other party knew, they probably wouldn't say anything because their genius is indeed mediocre. If he follows, he can only be a burden. This is a fact. At this moment, everyone secretly breathed a sigh of relief, somewhat glad that their own children were weak. Shuyan did the same and took a deep breath. In this case, he would listen for a while before informing the clan leader and the others. He believed that the power behind the person with double pupils was most likely a hidden family, and this fact would definitely surprise them greatly. What if they're not from a hidden family? Is it possible that we're just being overly sensitive? You know, even though this year marks the end of a millennium, it's still quite a while before a hidden family emerges. Some people also questioned it. After all, it was too unbelievable that a hidden family would come to East Shenzhou. But he was soon refuted by the red-haired old man. He raised his red eyebrows and said angrily, You know nothing. You don't know how powerful the Tianyuan divine dynasty is. As soon as it was established, it destroyed the Dacian dynasty, its long-standing rival. It is said that it was even slapped into dust by a powerful person. And after that, their current emperor, who is said to be the father of the one with double pupils, commanded an extremely powerful army and swept across almost half of the territory of Eastern Shenzhou. Wherever he went, no one could stop him or defeat him. And this only took a month or two. After he finished speaking, everyone looked at each other. Some of them couldn't believe what they had heard. The territory of a dynasty is as big as half of China. This has never happened in the history of Xintian domain. It can almost be regarded as a monopoly of the entire continent. Even the territories under these top families, big and small, only add up to 1/9 of central Shenzhou, but this is still a lot. At this moment, everyone dared not disbelieve it. Someone with such strength could not be from a native family of East Shenzhou. It was very likely to be from a hidden family. The powerful man who had questioned him earlier didn't dare to speak anymore, just smiled bitterly. If I had known earlier that the other party was so capable, he wouldn't have questioned it. Besides, if it really isn't a hidden family, and the other party is so powerful, when the hidden family emerges, there will definitely be a winner between the two. There can't be two tigers in one mountain, so there will be a good show to watch. The red-haired old man did not make things too difficult for him. He seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes were full of smiles. After hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. Yes, if that really happened, it'd be a good show to watch. At this moment, the old man from Tianji Pavilion also spoke. But no matter what, a leader who cannot be underestimated has emerged in Eastern Shenzhou. This is an ironclad fact. From now on, the world will change.